Hello, you're listening to the Otaku Spirit Animecast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined here with Chris.
Yo.
And you have been listening to Two Souls Toward the Truth by Flipside. That's the opening for Seraph of the End Battle in Nagoya, which is one of the shows we're going to talk about today, because today is our first impressions for fall 2015. It is finally time to give our input on all these shows, even though we've been kind of sprinkling stuff in the threads for them.
Are you sure? Can we handle this?
I don't know.
I mean, this is big stuff.
It's a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty much going to be doing a two-parter. That really depends on, hey, we went through this really quickly. Let's go ahead and throw in the other half. But right now we're scheduled to do two-parters, so we'll see. If you see part one in the title, then you know. So everybody knows before we do if you're listening to this and we're talking about it. It's a secret like that.
If you hear more than 7 or 8 shows, then more than likely we went ahead and merged them both.
It's about, I think, 15 or 16 per. It's a lot of shows.
So if you get 30.
I'm not going to say all the ones that we're going to go through because it's a lot. So you'll see it in the show notes and the article and stuff like that. But yeah, this is our fall 2015 first impressions. So again, we've been kind of sprinkling in the threads for them. I've been kind of holding back on the threads because I'm like, I don't want to reveal too much about what I think and then have to repeat the same thing. So all of our forum listeners and viewers will get something new. But we're going to start off with Valkyrie Drive Mermaid. So we're going to start off with a bang, so to speak. This is a tough one to talk about because the biggest elephant in the room. I'm going to also list where you can watch these shows if you're in the North American or surrounding licensed places. But this is from Funimation. The big problem that we noticed really off the bat was Funimation had the censored version.
Yes,
and I guess come out front with the fact that this show, a lot of it has to do with ecchi, nudity, very, very provocative, very sexual situations kind of things going on. So I think Funimation kind of dropped the ball on that one, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, it granted, we don't know everything behind it. It was essentially what happened is in Japan, there's 2 different airings of it on 2 different networks. One network has the censored version. One network has the uncensored version. It could be that Funimation wanted the uncensored version and they said no. You're going to have to wait until you start selling some physical copies or something. We don't really know, but the unfortunate aspect is that Funimation only has the censored version. So then I guess the question then comes to me is, I guess we can jump into the synopsis and everything, and then we'll kind of get more into that. But the synopsis basically is this girl named Momori Tokonome.
Shoujo.
Yeah, shoujo. or virgin. She finds herself... they were kind of whispering about how she had a test done, and the test showed something that was not good. And then out of nowhere, when she's at school, she gets confronted by a bunch of suits and gets knocked out. And then she wakes up on an island. And on this island, it seems like there's some kind of background control going on. They're sending people to go test her. And these 2 women show up in front of her, and they ask her what she is. There's a
liberator or a exeter.
Yeah, something like that. You can be one or the other, and basically what it means is you're going to be a weapon or you're going to be the weapon holder. So it's similar to kind of like a Soul Eater kind of thing if you watch Soul Eater. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then suddenly they're like, okay, well, we'll show you. And so they start rubbing all over each other, squeezing chests, and getting to the point where they're very happy, and then one of them turns into a gigantic weapon and the other one's wielding it, and they start blasting at her. And at the same time, this pod shows up on the outskirts of this island where there's a kind of a shell that's surrounding the island, and it pierced through the island, or the shell, and this very long-haired, beautiful girl shows up, and she protects Momori. And during the process, it seems like this Mirie, which Mirie is the name of this lady, she knows what's going on, and she gets all over on Momori and gets her overly excited, and then she becomes a weapon, and they fight back. So it's kind of like this, and then from there they go to this center castle hub thingy where you kind of find out there's this There's nothing but women on this island, except for they're hinting that one of them is a guy, which I don't think so. Looks very much like a very, very, very masculine woman to me. Not very masculine, but mannish, I guess. I don't know really what the word would be. But this it seems like they're trying to select the best of the best, equip them to wielders, and I'm assuming there's probably another group that they're going to fight against. They haven't really shown that yet. But they really want Momori because she's a very awesome weapon. And then they take Miri and they throw her in a dungeon. But that's kind of the premise so far, is just that there's women, and some women can become weapons, some can wield the weapons. And there's this kind of self-created hierarchy that's in this castle where they're controlling the girls. The ones that they don't think are deemed to be weapons, they have to follow rules in order to stay there. And they kind of rule with, a strong arm, lots of whips. Fist. Lots of whips. Yeah. Whips. I'm going on the whips hard. There's a lot of whips and stuff like that. But yeah, going back to my point earlier, is it's like, okay, this show really doesn't have too much deep plot or anything going on with it so far. It's really just weapons and wielders and going against each other. There's a little bit of cool black market kind of stuff happening right now. That's kind of interesting. But so your big selling point here really is the sexual nature that's in it. It seems like it's sold on the aspect that it's actiony and it's sexual. And so if you're losing that half of it, it's kind of like, so how do you suggest something like that when there really is so much censorship going on in there? I'm not sure. Like with Tokyo Ghoul, at least I had a pretty cool little plot going on in the background, so it didn't bother me so much to have the censorship. Terraformers had some really cool moments of the story, but when it was all the censorship with everything else, it was like, what is this? What's the point? So really struggling with this one in the regards of censored. Granted, yes, you can go find the uncensored version and you will get all of the sexual stuff that you're looking for without all the censor bars, but I don't know. I guess we're going to have the same discussion when we get into Sister New Devil, but again, Sister New Devil has a storyline to go with it. This one, can you suggest it when it's censored? That's my problem.
I think my thing is more on the lines of I find a lot of the characters interesting, and I mean I guess I'm gonna fall into my old thing of I love Momori, and she's pretty much selling the story to me, so I'm hitting it from a different angle than you are, but at the same time I still am I'm struggling. I think it's more along the lines of, I think it's pushing it a little bit too far. I mean, I like this story and this world more on the lines of, it's interesting with the almost a soul eater vibe in a way. I mean, the like you were saying, the weapons are these girls turn into weapons and the wielders, and then you have, like you were saying, the little small community that's built in this castle, and then on top of that you've got these outsiders that they've just shown us, and how does those two come into effect? You've also got the aspect of obviously not one person, which is what I was originally got the impression of. Not only just one person can be the liberator. Obviously, you can have more than one weapon. That's what was shown with the lady.
It depends on who can get you to that point of climax, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Because obviously, and obviously, Momori has shown some interesting aspects. She can actually reject a liberator, which was a really cool aspect. Mirai and her ability to unlock her full potential and all that stuff. I thought that there's a lot of neat little tidbits that have just been sprinkled in the first few episodes, but this goes into the same aspect of Samurai Bride and High School DxD or High School of the Dead. There's something here, but like you were saying, can you really suggest it? Especially with the censorship. I mean, where do you go with yeah, this is an interesting world, but when people walk in and they see nipples the size of heads, I mean, it's just kind of a scary thing.
I don't mean disrespect, but it's like one of those things of I think you're kind of grasping at straws of like, yeah, she rejected the lady, but that was like okay, that seemed to be something that had to happen because she's virgin girl and her prince shows up and saves her. I think the only thing that really got to me, because it's like Momori, yeah, she's very, very cute. She's got a really cute voice, but she's just basically the amnesia character, the character that's coming into it and learning things as you learn it. I really only find the characters interesting in Momori and Mirie's kind of chemistry and the fact that it's almost like a Prince Charming saving the damsel in stress thing going on, which is really kind of cute. Every now and then she shows up and saves, and she's like, but you're not going to hurt anybody. And she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna respect that. And she goes out there and just kind of knocks them back and goes, I'm not going to fight you because I told her I wasn't going to fight. I like their chemistry, but I'm more interested to see what's more in Mirie's past. Obviously, she's goofed up in the past with possibly one of her previous weapons. What's behind that's kind of interesting. I like Mifon. Mifon's like way cute. She's probably my favorite character so far in the show. She's very mischievous, and she's the kind of the black market character. But yeah, I kind of agree. There's little tidbits here and there, but nothing star wise is my thing. It's like I don't see the little things as being interesting. I just more see there's a few characters that I'm attaching to. I think they have some cool chemistry, and yeah, like you said, I hope that they actually do something with all this stuff that other than just be fan servicey for the sake of fan servicey. But that's fine. But
to sell you,
I want something else.
To sell you a video game.
You reminded me of my biggest complaint of this show. You reminded me of my biggest complaint when we were first looking into this show. Of course, they have a game they're making at the same time by the same people that did Shinra Kagura, and they had like these two characters that I was like, oh, I love the design of these two characters. I like everything about them. They're the main characters of the game. They're not in this show. And I'm like, I am so angry. It's like, I don't see them in the opening sequence. So obviously they're not even going to be in the show. And that just got me way upset because it was like these two chicks and they make the big gigantic fist weapons. And I was like, that's really cool. But no, game, sadness. Maybe they'll bring it over because they do all the Shinra Kagura. So we'll see. Anything else to add?
No, I like I said, I'm very, very interested in this show. There's a lot of interesting aspects to it. Like I said, maybe it's just me and my easy falling in love with characters, and that'll probably push me through the show. So
I don't really have anything negative of the show. It's one of those shows where it's just it's kind of mindless fun to just kind of watch it. There's nothing really deep in there that I see. So take that as it is. Moving forward, let's move on to something that's going to be a little difficult to talk about, and that is Hidan no Aria AA, or Aria the Scarlet Ammo AA. And the reason why Andrew's so sad about this is because quickly I found out this is actually a spin-off of the original series. So we went through the whole process of doing the review / recap for the first season because we weren't quite sure what this was going on with this one, if it was a continuation or prequel or something. Well, if you're curious and you're afraid of spoilers, don't worry, because this is a spin-off completely. It's a prequel spin-off. And we found out in the recent episodes really quickly that, yeah, technically they have all these connections with the original cast that you will never see in the original series. And there's partnerships happening with certain characters that you never seen in the original series. I mean, they even showed Aria with the main character of the original series, and this is supposed to be a prequel when in fact they met each other like in the first episode of the original series. So yeah, that's my biggest disappointment, because I wanted more of Aria the Scarlet Ammo, and I'm getting, here's another cast, let's go into them. But this is basically following, if you've watched the original series or if you haven't, the original series, you had this big academy that trains Butte, and the Butte are basically people that are students that are able to carry weapons, or actually required to carry weapons. They're basically training mercenaries, and the mercenaries do jobs. And you basically followed Aria as she was seeking out her own justice or whatever she was doing. In this one, you're following another girl who's Akari, and Akari is like a first year of the academy, and she idolizes Aria. She just loves everything about Aria. She fantasizes, has dreams about Aria, and she wants to become Aria's pupils, basically. And so she seeks out Aria. She eventually writes up this contract request for Aria, and Aria actually accepts it. She actually does like a temporary thing, like you'll be like a temporary, but until you get your weapon back from me, she takes her weapon and puts it in her belt. Until you get your weapon back from me, I won't make it official. So. And then slowly you're meeting all these other characters that are Akari's friends and finding out their own thing and their desire to become buttes and whatever. The saddest thing that I found about the show is that they're essentially recreating the original cast again, and that's what's really bothersome. Is it's okay. Here's this new cast of characters, but then you have Hatogi, who is or Konayuki, who is Akari's friend, who is basically Shirayuki's sister. And if you know who Shirayuki is from the original series, she was the yandere character. But in this one, the little sister, who is friend of Akari, she's like a bad yandere. She's like the overly violent, breaking all laws and logic kind of yandere style, and it doesn't work. And then you have Kirin, who's basically a pupil of Reiko, or whatever her name is, from the Lupin from the original series. And she is the same type. She's the bubbly, kind of seductive kind of character. So it's like, we're recreating the entire cast. Why didn't you just do why didn't you just do more of the original? When you have the same tropes, you have the same character types, they even look the same. I mean, I can understand with Kanayuki and Shirayuki because they're technically sisters, but they look exactly the same. Kirin and with Reiko, it's like they look exactly the same except one's younger. It doesn't have the same feel, because I think the biggest problem with the show is in the original Aria, you had the great chemistry that was built from the original character, whereas this one, Akari is kind of a blank character. She's the only thing I can really give her is just the go-getting kind of type. But other than that, she's like a blank character, and she doesn't react to much what's going on around her. So you're really left with dealing with each individual character and how they act versus how she responds to it. And that's really my biggest problem with the show. I'm not having fun with it. It's okay. It's kind of blah. It's not terrible, but I'm just not having a lot of fun with the show. And that's, I guess, my biggest problem. I'm hoping it'll pick up eventually, but right now it's a very big disappointment for me, because I really like the original Aria, the Scarlet Ammo.
Yeah, it feels like they got stuck in the because there's no real drive for these characters, and I think that's the biggest frustration. Yeah, they've got the whole Amica thing going on, which the Amica is the contract that Andrew was talking about. That Akari is trying to become Aria's Amica. Each one of these characters trying to become are an Amica to another character, and usually it's in line with something having to do with the old series, but outside of that, there's no true drive, which we know Aria is going after. What was it, IU, so that she could save her mom. I mean, but that's not even touched in this show. You have these little cameos of the other characters, which, yeah, I guess that's kind of fan servicey, but it's not not good
fan service because it's not in line with the original series.
It's not trying hard enough to do any of that, so it's not like I'm getting anything out of that. Unfortunately, I have to agree with Andrew. Akari, yeah, she's a little cute, but I can't think of one scene that I remember involving her right now, except for, okay, maybe she sewed all night to sew that.
Yeah, this is the only thing that I could think of when we were talking about that. It's like, yeah, she sewed a lot.
But okay, she rode a bull machine this last episode.
I liked how they pointed out, like, why are you riding a bull? Or why are you riding that?
Now, Konayuki, which she's a little bit fun, but I mean, she's nowhere near Shirayuki's levels of I just found so much enjoyment out of Shiryuki in the first series. So, I mean, it felt like Andrew was saying, it felt like they're trying to capture all the charisma, but you don't have that main character to kind of beat heads with, and it's because Akari is not really. Akari is the focus of her affection, so you can't really bash heads against a tsundere who doesn't know how to deal with it, because there's really not a tsundere in this group.
Just Aria, but she doesn't really act tsundere. That's the problem. Aria even doesn't act the way that she usually acts. She's and everybody loves Aria in this one. It's like everybody hated Aria in the original series. Nobody wanted to be around her. She was too dangerous.
Not to mention the fact that she's hardly ever there.
Yeah.
I mean, she pops in.
I didn't even expect her to be there really much. And when I was looking at the synopsis, I was expecting her just to be kind of a side character, and it was going to be focused on these characters, but that's not really the case. But I think it really comes down to chemistry. And the original series had great chemistry. I love the chivalry thing that the main character did. His where he gets too close to women.
And it's not a matter of I wish the main character was in this one. It's not.
No,
it's because if Akari was a strong enough character to carry the group, I mean, I'd be fine with that. But out of the entire show, I can't name one character who is the main character. Akari is supposed to be the main character, and as weak as she is as a character, I can't latch on to her as the main character to carry the rest of the group. I mean, she just really isn't.
I'm just hoping that they keep hinting at. It's so funny. They have this Hina character I think that she's made contracts with everybody in the show already. Because like the main character of the last series comes in, Kinji comes in, and something happens with him, and she shows up and she goes to save him, and then Arya's over here trying to get information from Hina because she's contracted her to get information about Akari, and then now we just met our current main antagonist, which that whole thing was kind of dumb, and she apparently contracted Hina to be part of her team. It's like, this girl gets around, I guess. I don't know what's going on here. Who is her contract holder? I mean, she's going around and just handing them out like crazy. But yeah, it's just a disappointment. I'm hoping.
And now we're going into a tournament. So
yeah, what I was trying to get to is that Arya keeps having Hina look up information about Akari, and so I'm hoping that there's something interesting there, that when they reveal what her identity is or whatever, that there'll be something cool that'll come out of that, or maybe she'll have some kind of realization and actually get character build from her. I don't know, but we'll see. I'm still watching it just because I'm attached to the franchise, but so far it's one of those ones where I'm kind of wondering if I'm gonna write it off in the end and just act like I never watched it. But for those that don't know, it's airing on Funimation, so they have the original series there, so you probably already knew that. So yeah. Anything else to add to Aria, the Scarlet Ammo AA? No.
I hope it does good.
I hope it does too. I think I still like Kirin, but I think that's merely because I had the same like for Reiko from the original series, so I liked her. She was cool. Hacka doll.
Well, I do like the two blondies. I think that their little contrast fun in the way they became Amica. I thought that was an interesting, fun little thing for them. You know, the one was super tomboy, and she couldn't accept the idea of becoming a frilly girl, but she deep down really, really wanted to be frilly, and the one that she ended up latching on to is super frilly, and she just couldn't, you know, I liked that. I thought that wouldn't really, and then of course frilly girl was truly deep down, she's actually super strong, even though she acts super frilly, and I like that.
That's her combat style. She was trained under her, so she has that same. And that's what I had love about the original series was I liked the Lupin. The Lupin was like this character that had so many aspects of her heritage was in her, and it showed in how clever she was. She wasn't just a go out there and punch something. She was a do a flip, do this cool little thing, twirl around and catch the person off guard and then attack kind of thing. It was, and that's what I get out of Kirin with this one, is it's that same style from her predecessor. Whereas something like, you know, Konayuki, it's I got my yandere from my sister. That's all I've gotten out of her. There was no fighting style. Of course, she does use a sword, so I guess that's that. And she tries to kill Kari.
Teaches her how to be... Now, that was kind of funny. Teaches her how to become a yandere. That was kind of cute.
Yeah, it was already losing me at that point. You were laughing, and I was going, oh, wait, I'm told I'm still adjusting back to carrying. Okay, I get it. I got it. Let's move on to Hacka. This is a short series that is airing on Crunchyroll and Daisuki. This is currently at episode 5. It is in a world where... I would call it the world now, because it's a world where there's so much information out there on the internet. This network of information, and nobody can decipher through it all. So they create the Hacka, and the Hacka are these girls, digital girls who help advance mankind by getting them information and the tools they need to progress. And they have these little jokes about Hacka being in all these periods in history and assisting people to get through situations. But we're following the latest models that are kind of broken.
I love the cast list here.
I know that's
number 1.
Literally who they are.
Number 2.
They call them 1-chan and 2-chan and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the 3 is Hacka number 1, 2, and 3, and they are sent out to try to quote unquote advance people. And again, that's how they do that, is they really don't know. They're supposed to give them the information they need to progress and do what they need to do to advance, but they don't really know what they're doing. They arrive, they scan their target, they find out what their target is interested in, and they're supposed to fulfill that. But being this is a comedy, they're not too good at it. You have Hacka number 1, who's kind of ganky, she's cheery, she kind of overdoes things, she doesn't quite hit the mark even though she's trying to. You have Hacka number 2, who is kind of more of a level-headed but also kind of ditzy at the same time. And then you have Hacka 3, who's just kind of lazy.
Best girl.
Lazy, kind of lolly character. So it reminds me a lot of... there's a lot of characters in this season that remind me of what's her face from No Game No Life. So
Shiro,
yeah. I kept wanting to say Sora, and I knew that was the guy, but... and then we recently got introduced to Hacka number 4, which I don't know if she'll ever come back. She did not do a good job either. Spoiler, sorry.
She did the best.
She was doing a very good job. Very good job. But yeah, it's kind of a hit and miss show so far. I mean, the first episode, it was kind of okay, that happened. Second episode was like, okay, you gotta get me. Third episode was good. So it's really one of those, it's short, so it's not that much of an investment, but at the same time, it's really kind of, it selects a target. The target's always kind of in a certain kind of a otaku joke, and then they kind of play off those jokes. The original one was a Fujoshi. They had a dating sim guy. They had a hacker guy. So it's kind of hitting each one of these little kind of goofy otaku jokes, and they're kind of playing off of them. For the most part, it just kind of seems like it just tries a little too hard at points, but sometimes it kind of catches me off guard with something that's funny. But it's a very colorful, don't take it too seriously, lighthearted joke kind of show that doesn't have you think too hard, I guess.
Yeah, it's fairly simple in concept. I mean, it's a matter of turning off your brain and watching it for a little bit. It's not demanding too much, and it's not giving a lot either. So I mean,
it's 3-chan the animation, because you're basically on the same mark as 3-chan. You just kind of turn off the brain and don't want to try too hard, kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, it's definitely one of those ones where just check out 3 episodes. They're really short, and decide for yourself, kind of thing. It's not too much of an investment to try out. So moving forward, we have Attack on Titan Junior High. We finally got Attack on Titan back, and it's in chibi form.
Yep.
I've seen the PVs for, and this is broadcasting on Funimation. Hacka was on Crunchyroll, by the way, and Daisuki. I think I said that actually. This one's on Funimation. Attack on Titan Junior High. It's really taking all the characters from the original Attack on Titan. It's chibifying them, and it's throwing them into Attack on Titan Junior High. So they're going to school, and chaos and goofiness happens. It's straight out comedy kind of stuff. So don't expect Attack on Titan. Don't expect people getting swallowed by titans. This is purely fun. But yeah, we jumped right in there, meeting the main cast. You had Mikasa waking up Eren and taking him to school, and later on you meet Armin, who's technically kind of like he reminds me of Linus. He's totally Linus. I'm sorry. He has to have his comforter. So,
well, he's a neat, and he can't do anything without Eren.
I wouldn't really call him a neat though. He didn't want to go outside because it was too cold. I thought he was going to be a neat, but he's technically not really a neat. But then you meet the fact that this school that they're going to is paralleled with the Titan school. There's a school for Titans right next to them, and there's kind of rivalries that's happening. Every now and then the Titans will show up and do something bad, and they're upset about it. Instead of having the whole scene where people are being eaten, they eat their food, and they get really upset about it. And that's really where this show is coming from. If you like Attack on Titan, and you're coming into this show, this is really I think I pointed out with our preview, was like, this show is literally making fun of itself, and it's not afraid to do that. And that's what I really appreciated about it. If you find those goofy little things that everybody made memes out of, they took those and made them jokes. So you have Sarah and her obsession, or Sasha and her obsession with eating. They make it a joke, and it actually works here for me. I didn't really care for that in the original show, but here it works. So it's funny. And they always play off the obsessionness with Mikasa, with Eren, which is always funny.
Well, it was never a focus of a joke. Her obsession with eating, that was just a meme that came out of that because
she was eating it in the middle of a thing.
She was eating it.
It was obvious they were going for a joke.
She was eating at random points, but it was never something that they tried to make into it. And
it seemed like, especially looking through the manga, it's like every chapter there's a scene where she's obsessed with eating all the food that's on the table. So it was obviously some kind of a joke.
Okay.
I know that they try to put it in her story, but it was like, yeah, there's a certain point where that kind of gets a little off. But yeah, anyways, and you have them going to joining a club which will effectively, they think, combat the Titans because Eren's really upset the fact that they ate his lunch. So it's fun in that regard. I think my favorite moment so far was definitely like the opening scene with the running to school and bumping into people, and how Mikasa wanted to use that situation to her benefit. And, there's a lot of really funny moments. We laughed way too much in the first few episodes. It kind of had a recent episode was kind of meh, but it's been good so far. I've been enjoying it.
I think that this show has definitely shined as a medium of actually making fun of the show, and it's odd to say that because I mean I've seen shows that have made fun of other shows, and sometimes it's funny, but to make what 4 episodes, I mean 3 of them we've thought is absolutely hilarious. The 4th one wasn't as good, but it still did fine. And
there's a lot of setup.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think that maybe it's because the show is supposed to be so serious, and now that we're watching something that is just actually well timed, decently set up. I mean, I enjoy the aspect of, I mean, his super precious thing was stolen from him, so he's got to punish the Titans. And he's just got this absolute obsession with, he's going to punish the Titans for this. Setting up the wall cleaning club, and what I mean, we got to get them in there, but only the second years can use the
first in gear, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the maneuvering gear. But okay, but there's only 1 second year that can there, so we might as well give it to everybody anyway, as long as they can use it.
Balance.
You can't keep your balance, but so you can't be in the wall cleaning club because nobody can use it, or
it
nobody
can't be broken. If it was broken, then I would do this, and everybody's looking at her like, okay. But yeah, it's really that's why I really like it, is that they're not afraid of making fun of the things that everybody made fun of in the original series that they couldn't take serious. Eren constantly being on his soapbox. It's funny here because it's like he makes a stamp out of an eraser, and the Titan takes it, and he's like, "You took my precious stamp." And yeah, it's good stuff, but it really relies on you being okay with accepting this is just for fun, and you have to really like all the tropes that were in the original series, I think. Yeah. And maybe even people that don't like the original series, you might actually find this funny because it makes fun of itself. So who knows? Take that and accept it or not. I don't know. Moving forward to something more serious, we have Beautiful Bones, Sakurako's investigation, or Sakurako-san no Ashimoto ni wa Shitai ga Umatteiru. What? I wasn't even trying, and I made him laugh.
I happened to notice that you put the entire cast of Osomatsu-san.
What?
You put Osomatsu-san, the cast down here.
Oh, okay. Okay, wow. Jumping ahead. Anyway,
well, I'm sorry. I had scrolled my screen up.
I was wondering if I should. I was wondering if I should. I was really wondering if I. Anyways, Beautiful Bones, Sakurako's investigation. Pulling it back a little bit. We're on episode 4 so far. Again, it's airing on Crunchyroll. And this show follows. Basically, it follows Sakurako, but you can probably say Shotaro is the main character. He's kind of still going to school boy, high schooler, and he often visits this lady, this very beautiful lady named Sakurako, and it's kind of, I would guess, kind of a underling to her or trainee under her or whatever, but there's some kind of connection between the two, and he finds her very beautiful, and she kind of just deals with, like, accepts him to be around her, even though she's very antisocial, and she kind of uses him most of the time, like if she needs to go out and get bones, because she's obsessed with bones. She likes examining them. She likes putting them together. She knows a lot about bones, and she's also the daughter of a very prominent detective, or was it detective or police officer?
I thought she was
or chief,
the niece.
or uncle's a chief or something. Like
her
that.
uncle.
But yeah, and so this basically follows them as they usually go out and they'll dig up bones, and she accepts them or not, or there's some kind of happenings, a murder or something, and they'll somehow stumble into it, but that's fine. And she uses her very, very her very deep intelligence in bones and whatnot to kind of figure out what happened with the murder or the body that they find or the bones that they find, and it kind of dives into that. Really like the show so far. It's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful show. They put a lot of effort into Sakura petal filters. That's always cool. Some pretty good use of CG. Every now and then the CG kind of bothers me, but it's not enough to make me at all hate it. It's a very beautiful show. I like it.
It only really uses the CG when she's doing her transformation sequence.
They do it whenever there's like him running somewhere, and they'll just kind of pan the screen, but you bring up a good point. The only thing I think the only thing I don't like about this show, literally only thing I don't like about this show, is every time they go to examine a body, they have a literal magical girl transformation sequence for Sakurako. I'm not saying she's changing clothes. She's only putting on a glove, but there's bones walking past her, and something splatters on her face. I'm not sure what that's about. It seems pretty nasty, but... And then she goes to examine the thing, and it's really off-putting that they do that. I'm glad they're kind of skipping forward on it, but what I like about this show, getting back to the point, the main thing I like about this show is it's like they're hitting what I wanted with last season with Rampo-Kitan. They're hitting the suspense. They're hitting the let's take this apart and look at it and let's examine it. It's the build up to things. They're doing that really well. I mean, was it episode 2 was the one with the little kid?
Yeah.
That episode was, I loved every bit about that show because it had so much tension in that episode, and I loved every bit about it. It's a really good show. I mean, there can be arguments made on the idea of, wow, every time they go out, for some reason, they find a body, and you would kind of start questioning the fact that every single time they're out and about, they find a corpse, and that seems to be a little bit weird that she's that... I don't know, some chance that would happen, but I'm fine with that. I know there's a lot of criticism to Yuriko and how she seems to come and drop into situations conveniently. That doesn't bother me so much. Even with the aspect of them going out and running into stuff, there has to be a reason for them to find these corpses, and I'm okay with that having to be forced just to have things happen, because technically she's not a detective. People aren't going to bring this stuff to her. She has to stumble into it, and so... yeah, you can say it's not logic or anything, but it just works because it's just a good cast. There's a really good, it's decent chemistry. I'm not completely sold on Shotaro and Sakurako's chemistry with each other. They don't have enough character build yet. I think Sakurako's herself is very interesting. Just the two of them, I'm not quite sold on them yet. But it's just a good show. I like the writing so far, and this is probably easily one of the shows that I'm looking forward to the most. Probably the third or so on my list so far with this season.
I only like episode 2 and 3.
Lollies.
No, number 3 didn't have a lolly in it. No, it's a good show. I mean, I enjoy the writing as far as how they're pulling stories out of effectively just and that's really, I think, where I mean episode 2 and 3 has worked. Episode 4 is a two-part.
It's a two-parter, so
it's not like I've gotten to the meat of the discussion. It's just kind of ideas floating around in my head. But even with 4, it's a first parter which is creating questions, and I think that's cool. I like how it creates questions. We're already speculating on what exactly is happening there. But that's what I was giving it that leeway on the fact that if episode 5 comes in and it blows it out the park, I mean, that's a good thing. Right now, I'm not. It's effectively a miss because I haven't gotten anything out of it except for the dog, that
goes back to the discussion of does it have to have a punchline for the beginning to be good or not?
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Episode 2 and 3, they hit it, and they hit it out the park. Episode 1 was a big miss in my opinion, but
yeah, episode 1 had me very worried about the show.
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes down to, I mean, judging it off of those two, there's great writing here, so I'm giving it that much. I enjoyed.
Why are you sounding like the negative person? I thought you loved this show.
I liked these. I liked the writing that was in here. I thought that it worked very well for what it was trying to do. It brought out. I especially loved the. Almost like the end cap of the way that they just tied the bow on the third episode.
That was very, very emotional.
Yeah, it was gorgeous, and I thought that it was so well done, and I give this show huge props, and it's just one of those things. I want to see the rest of the show before I can say I love the writing in those 2 episodes. I think that this show has a great, huge potential.
Why are you putting stipulations on this show and not the other shows? Why are you being negative?
I'm not being negative. I thought that I was just glowing on this show.
You're like putting stipulations. Well, technically I don't have the punchline for 30, so I can't really say anything about, or 4, so I can't say anything about 4 anymore. But no, I agree. The first episode was like, I think I put it in my impressions on the I think I made a post for it. It was like, what are we doing with this show? It wasn't giving me enough writing. And then, the second episode was like, oh, by the way, this is us. And I'm like, woo, okay, cool. I'm with you. And 3 was like, okay, you're hurting me. Okay, I got you. All right, I know where you're going now. And then 3 was, like I said, it's building the questions, which I really like, and that's something we're going to talk about a lot with Perfect Insiders. I like these shows that are creating questions and stipulations, and not stipulations, but speculations and stuff like that. It's creating a lot of discussions on our thread for it of, well, what is causing this guy to get sick? And there's all these possibilities. We're trying to piece it together before the show does. That's what I wanted from Rampo-Kitan. This is what I like about this mystery kind of stuff, is when they can make you question what could be the cause and build your own conclusions. That's a sign of good writing, in my opinion. So, Good stuff. Definitely a recommendation. Definitely looking forward to where it goes from here. So, like Chris was joking earlier in my little notes for Mr. Osomatsu, which is currently airing on Crunchyroll. This show, again, is something pulled from a really old show, if you've never seen it. The show about the Osomatsu sextuplets. There's 6 brothers, and we're now in kind of a more future point, kind of at the point where they're trying to look for jobs. And before with the old series, you had them more younger and more mischievous, whatever. They're still mischievous. What am I talking about? It's and it's just kind of a comedy of their mishaps of trying to become something in the world or just doing some kind of job. The first episode was absolutely hilarious because it was kind of a, hey, we're from the past. They had black and white stuff. They're saying, we're from the past. How are we going to adapt to this new world and this new society that's not going to take our jokes? And they kind of played a couple of the jokes, and you're kind of going, yeah, that's definitely old humor. And then they kind of just took every genre of anime and they just threw it up into this big bundle and said, we're going to try to be all this stuff. And it was absolutely bonkers hilarious. I loved every bit of it. And then episode 2 went, hey, this is our show. And it's basically just them trying to get jobs and messing with each other and looking for jobs and messing with each other.
Looking at penises.
Yeah, that was a little awkward. I would just probably say this show is very, very hit and miss. I mean, like I said, the first episode was hilarious, and then it goes from there to kind of like segmented skits. So they'll have them do one thing, and then the next segment they're going into something else for every episode, and it's off and on, funny or not. I mean, they had the Decapon. Oh my gosh, that was just disturbing. I didn't want to watch it. The onsen questionnaire was like, this is absolutely disturbing. Yeah, I was laughing at the same time, but I'm going, I don't want to laugh at this. Really, I don't want to laugh at this. And then you'll have the segments like the very first episode. You'll have the it's hard to even remember the funny
parts.
The
guy who wanted to kill him.
Though, yeah, that was kind of funny too.
I thought it was hilarious.
I think that's one kind of killed at certain points, but yeah, it was every now and then it had a really funny moment.
What worked for that is the fact that when it first came up and the first joke happened, it was like, okay, that was kind of funny. And then the second joke happened, and
you're like, okay, now I know what you're doing.
Now I know what you're doing. And you were like, okay, I don't want to see this joke get killed. And then they kind of twisted the joke a little bit, and in a way, it was kind of killing the joke, but at the same time, it was twisting the joke just a little bit that made it funny again. And it's like, how did you pull that off? And it did it for what, 5-6 minutes straight of just that one joke that they just twisted just a smidge to make it a little bit more funnier. And it's like, how did you do that? But that's one scene out of the entire episode. And it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, you got that first episode that was hilarious. I kid you not, if you want to see the funny in this show, watch that first episode. You can hunt for the scene with the guy who wants to kill him, but good luck on that one. I think it was episode 3, wasn't it? It was the first part.
I think it was episode 2. No, it was 3. It was 3 because 2 was like completely like, oh my gosh, this is boring. I guess that's my problem with the show is it's like every now and then they'll have some really clever thing thrown in there, but then yeah, the episode 2 was just them going to some stupid factory and making stuff. It was completely boring. And then you'll have the Saw moment, and that's funny. And then we're back to... I think the biggest problem I have is, like, I should relate to the show so well because I was, a son in a family of 3 boys. And I kind of relate to... The only character I really connect to in the show is the main one. And he's voiced by, one of my favorite voice actors. But even in the most of the show is really about them being mischievous to each other and punking each other and messing up each other's opportunities for something good because they're jealous or they just want to, get back at them for something that happened, years before. And yet it's not funny most of the time. It's like, he was going on a date with somebody. He shows up and messes up the date, and that's it. That's not funny to me. I don't like punk humor, I guess, is the problem. I don't like the whole idea of messing with somebody and messing up an opportunity they have. And that's what most of the jokes are. And I kind of like the whole thing with the mother choosing who was going to be with them. But I was almost wanting to fall asleep during it. It's like I said, it's very, very miss and a little bit of hit.
Yeah, the mom thing, it was funny, but at the same time, it was like, okay, that's kind of... And I guess that's one of those things. It's at that point, it's how do I look at a parent and how they take care of their kid? That kind of humor just doesn't work for me per se. So it was kind of to me a big miss on my part, but at the same time, it was kind of funny at the same time. So it was kind of like disturbing humor, I guess. Like you were saying with the part in the onsen, I didn't get any humor out of that. I thought that was just dumb. But at the same time, I mean, I guess in a way, I can see the awkward laugh, and it
was a lot. It was a lot of awkward laughter.
Yeah,
really.
and with the mom, it was like, okay, I can see where that's funny. I want to laugh, but at the same time, I hate this idea of a mom that is actually making her kids interview to go and move with her. I mean, granted, the kids should have moved out of their house a long time ago, but that's beside the point.
Anywho. Like, it is really one of those things that's very difficult to suggest, but I mean, give it a. Don't go based off the first episode. The first episode is completely separate, I think, from the entire series. You're gonna have to give it like episode 2 and 3 before you're gonna decide if this is the kind of humor you're looking for. But it's a very divisive, I guess, kind of humor. If you're gonna get it or you're not, kind of thing, and just not really getting it. So,
in a way, it's a lot of potty humor.
Yeah, it's a lot of little brothers.
Yeah, it's
messing with each other.
Yeah,
kind of humor.
it's immature humor. The kind of humor that is, I guess, slapstick. Is that what slapstick is?
That's the problem. Is like I don't really want to call it. Yeah, it is. It's a lot of immature humor, so I'm not going to deny that. But it's like it is also dealing with a lot of very adult kind of things. So it's like, who are you trying to go after here? I don't know.
It's true.
It's because it deals with a lot of things like drinking and gambling and stuff like that. So it's a tough one to kind of nail. All I can think of is it's just playing a lot off of nostalgia and trying to at the same time capture a new audience. And it's like, I give you props for trying it, but that's a very difficult thing to do. So good luck.
Yeah, it's definitely I can see it being a big miss on the Western side. I don't see a lot of Westerners latching onto this show.
Our next one is Dance with Devils. This is a show that follows the very, very beautiful Ritsuka as she goes to school
with a whole bunch of beautiful boys.
Her mom is very, very, very inclined to the idea of her taking this pennant with her because it's very important. She doesn't understand why. But when she gets to school, she is summoned by the student council, the prettiest of the prettiest boys in the school, and they call her up there and claim that she has been reported as doing something that was against school policies, and they try to enchant her, but her pennant saves her. But when she tries to return home, she finds that her home is ransacked. There's a bunch of unknown individuals that are inside the house, and she sees her mother on the floor bleeding. She tries to call the cops. She comes back and finds the house is completely cleaned, and the cops are there with her, and they don't see any problem, but her mom's missing. But it's come to find out that there's this group that's trying to find this grimoire, and that's why they ransacked her house. They're trying to find the grimoire. They've taken her mom hostage, and her brother is also secretly a exorcist who is training because of this moment that the devils and the vampires are trying to fight over this power, which is apparently possessed by the grimoire itself, even though we all know where the grimoire is. I'm sorry. It surprises me because usually with shows like this where I come into and it's a shoujo, you know right off the bat, pretty boys, and it's just focusing on that and how beautiful they are and taking down this girl with charms and stuff. But it seems to have an interesting element behind there. I mean, like I said, it's very obvious the elements behind that, but I guess it's written decently well. I'm liking the interactions that are happening. It's kind of building this momentum of this bout between brother, vampires, and demons. Really, is the three groups that I see. And what the other interesting element of the show is it almost feels like a musical. And I kind of put that in my first impressions for the first episode. Was like it felt like this was like one of the few animes that comes right out and is basically a musical. The girl, it opens up with this big old chorus of cultists that are singing the song, and then it goes into her walking to school and singing about leaving her mom behind and she's gonna be okay, and then it goes to the pretty boys and they're all singing in their library, and then it kind of just stops, and it jumps in there every now and then. Like they had this whole fight between one of the demons and the vampires, and he was singing the entire time. I liked that. I thought it was kind of interesting, and I think that's what really drew me to the show. Is like I don't usually like musicals. I kind of despise musicals, but I was more interested in seeing what can anime do with the musical aspect. And yeah, I'm pretty sure most shoujos probably have that element in there. I think Star Mew does it as well in this season. But this is the first one that kind of, I think the main character, Ritsuka, I think she's a very beautiful character design. I like a few of the character archetypes that are happening, a few that I really don't like. But I just like, it has enough to kind of keep me going. I don't think it's stellar in any way, or really great in any way. It's just give me enough to kind of pull me along as it does something that's kind of really, really interesting and unique, in my opinion. And that I've seen so far. I'm pretty sure people can name millions of shows that are musical-ish, but it's given me enough that I've interested in it, and it's something new to me.
Okay. On my side, I think it's
Why does it have to be your side? Why do you have to have your own side?
I don't know.
Why can't we be together and talk about it? Anyway, sorry.
I think it's gorgeous. I love the music. I think they've tossed in some good musical numbers here and there, and I think that they work really well. On the shoujo side, I think it's actually a little bit weak. Strangely enough,
that's why Andrew's enjoying it.
A lot of the interactions have been kind of hit and miss on this one. It's almost like she's getting yanked along for the ride, but I've seen that before in shoujos, so it's not anything new for me. I think that it's kind of frustrating. It's one of those the dumb girl in the cast of Pretty Boys, and she doesn't know what to do. She's just going along for the ride, and it's one of those frustrating things that I've seen in a few of these shows, and it's every time I do it, I end up getting upset about this, but at least it looks great and the music is good. So, and it's got an interesting storyline, which, like my brother was saying, I think that it's very interesting as far as a world that's being built around her. I do find it interesting that it's going to be kind of it feels like a lesser of two evil groups that her and her brother are going to eventually have to side with one or the other, and
it's painting a lot of early on conclusions with like the fact that you have another group that they're not even touching, which is the vampires, which obviously makes the demons look like they could possibly be good, but you still have the element of the fight between the demons and brother. But I agree with you. I do think the main character, even though she's very beautiful, she is very pulled along, very blanked in my opinion, but and she does kind of frustrate me in the idea that she's kind of, we lay this out for you, and then you're still doing something very stupid. Like, there's obviously a danger here. Why are you being so stupid? But it's for the show, I guess. It's to progress things. You can't have her just hide up or anything. But it's giving me enough that I'm enjoying it. So I'll keep watching it. Like I said, though, it's not great by any means. Just it's enjoyable. It's pulling me along. All right, let's move on to Chivalry of a Failed Knight, or Rakudai Kishi no Cavalry. And that is a series that follows Ikki, who is going to a school. This is going to be so difficult, and I'm already bringing it up. He's going to a school, and at this, I'm already having a problem. I'm just going to read the synopsis, I guess. Sword action story revolves around magic knights, modern magic users who fight with weapons converted from their souls. Ikki goes to a school for these magic knights, but he's known as the failed knight, or worse one, who is failing because he has no magical skills. However, one day he is challenged to a duel by Stella, a foreigner princess, and the number one student. In the duel, the loser must be obedient for life, and which basically is involving them having to, they're bunked together by the principal, and there kind of seems to be reasons behind that, because basically he is very, very skilled, but he is known as a failed one because there's a stipulation to his ability. And then there's the princess, who is the number one, and so they kind of feel they might be kind of a really cool team, and they're again bunked into the same location or the same room, and they decide to have a duel to decide certain things and all that involved with it. But yeah, the thing I was kind of bringing up is I'm really struggling with how we're going to talk about this show and another one called the Asterix War, because the entire time I watch this show, I keep thinking of certain things, because as you're watching a show, you're of course kind of tying things together from previous episodes, and what I'm having a problem with is I keep bringing aspects from the other show in, and I'm like, oh wait, no, that's that show, and wait, so this show is this, and that's my issue right now. But between the two of them, I'm really enjoying Chivalry of Fail Knight for several reasons. One of the main reasons I like the chemistry between Ikki and the princess, which her name is Stella. I like their chemistry because they're already breaking a lot of the usual tropes. They're jumping right into them kind of accepting each other right off the bat. There's not this continuous conflict between the two. They bring in, of course, the little sister, who kind of makes a little goofy love triangle between them. But I like the chemistry. I like the main character, Ikki. He's not truly fascinating, but at the same time, he's a solid person. And then you have Stella, who has her own reasons for what she's fighting for, and they form a bond pretty early on, which I think is refreshing, and I think it's going to help the show progress a lot better with them actually dealing with the situation rather than just dealing with each other, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's. I think that, again, I'm struggling with which one's which. I like the chemistry, I like the characters, and the other big thing with comparison to the other show is that they have this. There seems to be a goal that they can achieve within this core, and that's something that often with shows like this, where they lay out, here's the world, and this is kind of the goal. This one kind of feels like we will get some closure in the end, and so that's what kind of puts it higher up on my list, I think.
It's strange, because I can see the issue, and I've actually heard this quite a bit on these two shows. I see them the similarities between the two, but I don't have as much of a problem with the separating thing. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I think that this one shines well on its own as far as. But I think both of them look really good. So, I mean,
I'm very surprised with how good they look. Because like I said, usually with shows like that are this type, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, here is the main protagonist. They're in a magical academy and students are fighting against each other, usually involving a tournament. They don't do well with quality.
Right.
And this one seems, especially with Chivalry of Fail Knight, it looks very good. Especially the combat sequences looks very, very good.
And this one is I enjoy the characters. I think that they do well with their interactions. It slipped in this little interesting little story behind there that kind of drives the characters very well. I think that overall the character drive itself is a little bit weaker than on the other show. I hate that we're gonna end.
Well, let me just get the joke across already. You had the opening sequence. You have, character goes into an academy. Same for both of them. You have the main girl of the show. They're both princesses from another location coming in for a particular reason. You bring in the tournament that's obviously there. They both have a tournament kind of aspect. They both have weapons that they summon that come out forth. You have the main character is known as the lowest of the school because they have some kind of reason why their ability is not completely probable in testing or whatever. They had so many similarities. The problem that really causes for me is just that, like, for example, in Chivalry of Fail Knight, they have this moment where the main character is watching videos of his opponent to get an idea of what he's going to be facing. He's examining his opponent so that he knows how to counter it. He's observing. And they have in this whole segment, they have this, he uses arrows. they have these arrows come down at the lady, and she falls over, and I'm thinking that he's watching footage of a security for like a security footage of somebody being attacked by the arrows from the Asteroid War, which they keep, these people are being knocked out, and it's usually by these arrows from a distance. That was the issue that I was having. I'm wondering, okay, is the sister in this one the one that's like obsessed with him and kissing him, or is it from the other show? It's those little parallels that keep boggling up my mind. It's hard to draw the separation, really, is what it is. Sorry, I went on a tangent in the middle of your thing.
No, I mean, it's a valid argument, and I don't have a problem with the argument. I can see the similarities.
I'm usually the one that'll go. I'm interrupting again. I'm usually the one that when I see somebody go, like Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, oh, this is another All Know It's Zero. I'm usually the one that goes, no, I don't really see that. I see that there's a completely different thing they're doing here, and I'm enjoying that. It's just a whole nother thing when I'm watching something and I'm constantly going, wait, is this one or is this that one? And I'm having that struggle. When I physically have that struggle with remembering what just happened in the previous episode and I'm meshing it with something else, that's when it becomes a problem. Sorry.
You have a valid argument.
I'll stop. I'm explaining myself too much.
I can see the argument. I think it's a valid argument. I think both of them look great. I think we might as well just go ahead and do the other one while we're at it, because
I purposely separated them because I wanted to give them their own justice.
This show shines in its way because of the, like Andrew was saying, the combat scenes, the how good it looks. It looks great. I like a lot of the character interactions. I think that it has this little world that it's building, and I think it is doing well on that. It is a lot of fun to watch this show in its own right. I think that she's the only one that you don't have on this list.
I only put important characters on the list.
The student council president. I thought she was funny with a lot of her interactions with the main character. This show does its own thing, and it is fun, and I like it.
Yeah, I don't particularly like the fact that they have a limit on the main character. I like the main character has a better. I mean, we're making the comparisons again. Like I said, we probably should do it anyways. It has a nice element to the main character in the fact that he has a rough upbringing, but yet he's got this one thing that was told to him by somebody that kind of was a beacon of hope for him, of the idea of always strive to not give up kind of thing. And it kind of plays well on him. I agree that he doesn't really have too much going for him character-wise. I think the more interesting element is Stella and her struggle with doing the things that she does for her homeland. And it just has some really good combat sequences. I think it does well in just developing a show like this, but having a cast of characters that you enjoy being with. The only thing that I really don't like is what they do with Stella is, and it's one of those things where I don't want to hate it because it was doing something that was very rough, but at the same time it did it in a way that was a little off-putting. Is this whole element of they had a hostage situation and they had her strip, and it was just it didn't feel right to me. And I'm usually fine with the fan service, but in that situation it just felt very disturbing. And maybe that's what it was going for, and maybe it served its purpose. It just, what they do with her just doesn't appeal to me because I think she's a strong character, and I like what they're doing with her.
Yeah, and I think that's where one of the things that shines about these characters is him in himself. I like him as a main character because he's both strong and at the same time he's very
supportive.
Yeah, he's very supportive, and he gives off this air that gives the characters around him reason to respect him.
Yeah,
and I like that. I like the characters that are around him because each of them are unique in their own way, and yet they are strong and powerful, but yet they don't take away from him. And I like that in this cast. I think that works really well.
Are you talking about the student council president from the Asterisk show, the one that was in her room and invited him in? Because I don't think I've ever met the student council character in this show.
She was the one that put them in the room together.
Oh, yeah, she did. For a brief moment, she was in the show. I'm sorry. But I think she was a president. I don't think she was student council president. Anyways, I don't know.
I suppose it's possible that yes, Chris got it mixed up. I thought I'm almost positive that girl right there is Blondie that keeps teasing
this
him.
is the one that brought them in together. And no, I don't think she's even been in the show yet.
Okay, then yeah, I guess I got one mixed up.
I just wanted to call that out because I noticed that he just got something mixed up. That's it. It reaffirmed my issue. I'm sorry. It's a thing. But no, that was the main reason why I didn't put them together, because I didn't want people to get them mixed up as we talk about both of them and have the same issues there. But like I said, I like the chemistry of the show. I agree with you.
I'll admit that I was thinking about it the entire time. I was like, no, because she gave him the weapon, and I know that she didn't give him the weapon.
Nobody gave this guy a weapon. He's always used his same sword. So yes,
I mixed it up.
There's that issue.
One character. The rest of the show, I did fine.
And the whole giving the weapon thing is kind of important to the other show.
Yes.
It's a huge part of the other show. But yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of the coolness comes in the show as the main character. I think that he's, like I said, he's not deep. He doesn't have a huge backstory yet. But I think that his reliable nature, his overcoming things, and his respect for people and wanting to help people, support people, makes the other characters more believable, because like Stella and her ability, her wantingness to be with him is more believable because he is such a supporting and reliable character. And that plays into the huge tropes that they broke in episode 4 by actually making it a thing. So it's really cool that that's progressing in the way it is. It's getting those things aside, and it's moving forward with the characters rather than be beating each other in the head constantly. It's going to do something else. And that's, I know that there's this big thing where people don't like these types of shows, and I kind of feel a little for those people because, again, I'm having issues with these two shows and deciphering them. This whole concept of, here's another one of these visual novels or one of these light novels that's getting adapted, and they all look the same, they do the same stuff. But usually with shows like that, where it seems like it's a cut and paste kind of situation, the characters are what's going to tell me if I'm going to enjoy the show versus the other, 10 of them that are the same in that same season or multiple seasons. And this one, I like the characters in this one. I like the chemistries in this one. I like Stella. I like Kiki. So
I know what it was.
It needs more little sister, though.
I know what it was. I just wanted Blondie to be in this show so bad.
If they brought her over here, then boom, this show would be pretty much perfect. Because my issue with the other show is a lot of the characters. So
it's pretty much. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, both of them are good, but the other one is just a little bit weaker than this one, and that's, I think,
my issue with the other one, which we'll get into eventually, is the fact that it's like, here is all these schools you are going to compete against in order to make which one's going to be the best, and I'm like, we're not going to touch but one of those ones in this season, and we'll probably never see anything from this again. They opened it up with this. Like I said, with this one, it feels like there's no broad thing they can go into. It's, here's the goal, we're going in this direction, and maybe that's to its detriment that it doesn't seem like there's that much going forward, but it's enough to say that if this is a single core, I'm less likely to be disappointed. So hopefully we'll see some conclusion to this show. I hope that made sense and people aren't jobbling it all together like we just referenced it way too much, but hopefully that all came together decently well. So, but it does need more little sister. She's kind of crazy.
Yes.
She's definitely crazy.
Definitely need more lolly.
Moving forward, let's go into Heavy Object. This show takes place in a world where all battles are decided by what they call heavy objects, or I think just call them objects. It's essentially where you had before with, of course, large-scale wars, tons of people going out there and fighting. At some point from this unknown island came this gigantic object that had gigantic guns. I mean, we're talking gigantic, huge guns that just destroys everything, and mankind basically changed to deciding all wars based off of giant objects fighting each other. They figured out a way of building these huge, gigantic one-man armies, and they're all piloted by one person. And so basically disputes over territory, disputes over decisions, wars, countries are all decided by these skirmishes between usually two objects. And we're jumping into Alaska right off the bat. We meet Quaither, and he is stationed there doing very tedious jobs like clearing runways with his friend Havia. And they quickly established this idea that the military kind of feels useless. They went to train to become part of the military, and turns out they're not needed. The military is not really needed. Everybody's sitting around doing really nothing because everything's decided by in this case, the princess and her what she does in the battle ahead. Because if they're one person that pilots the object fails, the war's over. It's basically, if one side, it's all decided by these two objects. And we quickly jump into a battle between Melinda, who is the princess, or Hime, they call her Hime. A battle between Hime's object and this other object that comes into the area. And what happens is that the battle doesn't really quite go Hime's way, and then Quasar and Havia have to go out there, and they could have ran with everybody else, but they decided they wanted to help, or, well, technically, Quasar actually decided to help Hime, and went out there to figure out a way of taking down this object.
Okay, don't forget, I mean, I hate to do this because your synopsis is doing fine, but we got to remember that the reason why they were running was because the object that Hime was going against randomly started attacking the base. Yeah. Which is usually highly unusual.
It's just throw up a white flag and you're done.
Throw up a white flag and everything's over and the battle is won. But for some reason, this particular object randomly started attacking the base, which is very unusual. That's why they were running away from the base.
Yeah. But yeah, he goes out to try to rescue the princess who had ejected, and this ends up forcing Havia to actually join him. They rescue the princess, and then they try to figure out, basically the huge gist of the show so far really is they try to figure out a way of taking down this heavy object, or this object. And that's kind of where the show has been going from this point. They went to an ocean to fight another object there, and that's pretty much, we're going to go from there, probably something else. Is the show kind of revolves around, this world was set on the idea that everything is decided between two objects. And the gist of things so far is really, this nation now realizes that this Quasar guy and this Havia guy have figured out a way of taking down these things that nobody has ever thought would be possible. They're breaking the rules. So they're experimenting with them on the idea of, well, go out there and see if you can pull it off again. Make sure that's not a random happening. So let's see if you can pull it off again. And they're figuring out ways of examining what they're against and doing something to take it down, like knocking out their maintenance or commands, all these different things that will pull that one, or take out that Achilles tendon and knock the thing down. And that's kind of where it kind of transitioned to my impressions of the show. Is I like shows that have, we call it the unmecha mecha. I like shows that have these gigantic mecha things. We'll just call them mechas, even though it's technically a gigantic sphere for the case of Hime. There's usually like a little, they call a water spider kind of skipping thing that they fought against at first. And it's focusing on the people and how they can overcome these things rather than just, well, let's just have these two things rotate each other and one shot the cannon and that's it.
And just to be clear, I mean, that's where this show really shines.
Yeah, that's my point.
The fact that these guys are up against this big old huge object, Hime is in there fighting. I love the fact that Hime gets in there and she admitted that she was thinking of these guys as lower beings because she was always the one that was out there doing the fighting, and they were lifting her up because she was the one that everybody was looking at as the savior of the group, and that's where this show shines.
Yeah, that was my point.
No, I'm just getting my sense in there because I want to focus on that as the good thing about this show.
Yeah. So you made me lose my progress, but that's the element that I like, is the fact that they are focusing more on overcoming impossibilities, more about the people and how they can overcome something that really just seemed kind of impossible, and they do it in decently clever ways. I like what they're doing with and it's it's the part that I struggle with the most is that I love the idea that they're not making the show out to be, okay, send out Hime and the war is won. She's perfect. She beats everything. She's infallible. But I think they've spent too much time showing that she's kind of useless. And I'm hoping this is going to kind of build up to a punchline of, yeah, there she goes. This is what we were waiting for. She's taking things down. She's taking things down. She's winning. She's overcoming something. She just got this one train that she needed, or she found. And we're kind of seeing a little bit right now as she's finding inspiration or purpose, which is kind of cool. So I'm just hoping for that moment where they kind of show a purpose to the Hime, because right now all it's really been is, all right, big baddie, send out Quasar, and let's see if he can figure something out and take down this gigantic thing, which, again, is cool. I just want a little more given to me from Hime. But, again, I don't want it to be she just wins everything, send her out kind of thing. So
yeah, and that's that's why I was jumping in with what I was saying, is because I wanted that to get in there as the reason why it shines. Having Hime be flawed is a good thing. The problem is that the dialogue, number one, is crazy insane. There's way too much dialogue for a lot of things that can easily be just shown.
It's not just that, because that was really my only complaint about the show. Is the only thing that I'm not enjoying about it is just they never shut up, and they're in they're sneaking into a base and they're still not shutting up. It's like, you really don't have to tell him what you're gonna do; just do it, and he'll get the clue. Or maybe there's a helicopter coming down. That helicopter's going to pick us up. Yeah, I get that. I understand that there's a helicopter coming toward you. You're probably going to get picked up. You don't have to tell me that.
And that's a good example of what we're talking about. I mean, saying, okay, there's oil reserves on hey, that looks like an oil drum. Let's go ahead and bomb that. I got you. But you don't have to explain why the oil's there, how it got on there.
Because we already went through the whole thing that it is an oil drill.
Yeah, how it's gone through the entire system of the machine and blah, 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 blah. And that's the biggest problem that I have with this show. My other thing would kind of reflect what Andrew is saying, is the fact that they've effectively given Hime such a flaw that she's almost irrelevant to the show, and that really sucks, because
it was done.
She can easily be the shining star of the show. Not necessarily that she has to be the ace in the hole. She doesn't have to come out and win every shot, but make her relevant with Quathar or Quinthar and Havia. Make them enhance her.
There's really only been like 2 cases where she's done something with her, and this is over 5 episodes. She's only done 2 things in one battle that have turned the tides of things. She rained down some bullets to get rid of people, which was funny, and she did the final blow to that second thing. But she could have never been there, and the battle would have been over. And that's the problem, is you have to give her doing something that changed the tide. She doesn't have to do it all, but she has to have a purpose for being there. She's very cute. I like the little thing between him and her and Quithar, but she needs a purpose for being there. And I think it's really a lot of, and they kind of established it early on, was like, technically this thing's a piece of junk. Why are you here observing it? This is the old model. And I was hoping it would be like a thing of, well, they did kind of lay out the aspect that it can go on any terrain. So maybe there's one of those things where the old is still good, or they don't make them like they used to kind of moment. But they haven't really given me that yet, and I'm just hoping.
Yeah, I think I told him at some point I was half expecting them to do some random upgrades at certain points.
It's 24 episodes, so let's keep that in mind.
Quinthar was going to be up in there doing all kinds of upgrades at random points and making this thing just super awesome to turn the tide of the battle.
Yeah, that went out the door real quick. Yeah, he never touched that thing after that first episode.
And don't get us wrong, because I do truly love this show. I think that it has something here that I truly want to see. And I think that maybe I'm being a little bit more harder on it because I want it to do well. I think that Hime is an excellent character. I think that Quinthar is a very interesting character. Havia, I think that he's just he plays
off. A lot of Havia is playing off of Quinthar, and again, that goes back to that dialogue thing of like, yeah, a lot of it's kind of funny and it's really quick humor. It hits it. Often it's a mishumour, but they just play off each other well. It's kind of the two buddies going out into a situation they really shouldn't be in.
Dumb and Dumber going out to fight the big boss.
That's where a lot of the fun comes in the show, is just seeing them kind of hit off each other. And then to add into that, their captain is their chemistry is really funny. And then you throw in there
Captain Shine this last episode. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I really this is going to be a solid case of we're just going to have to see where it goes, because I think it's if it's doing this properly, I'm going to throw an assumption that they're doing this properly, that they're slow burning it into something really great. They're going to slow burn it into something where she gets an upgrade and it kind of builds into her being very useful in battle. This is a 2-core show. We're going to have plenty to work with here, so it just might be a case of just give it time. So far, it's given me good characters. It's given me good visuals. It's got a good build up so far. I like what they're doing with the whole overcoming the impossible, and how they're kind of the governments are kind of seeing, wow, so these things are fallible. There's a way to get around it. This can change war completely. They can change war completely, and that's a cool thing. I want to see where that goes. It's just the dialogue. And I think that's a lot to do with the probably the light novel. I think what they're doing is they're trying to keep a lot of the light novel in there, and probably the light novel is a lot of dialogue. It's having to have them focally say what's going on to know what's happening in the light novel, and I think they're just bringing it all in. They're not skimming anything. And
me and Andrew, we talked about this, and I agree. I think that it is a lot of it is the light novel and them talking to each other, so that you visually you and your imagination can understand, hey, this is what they're seeing, this is what they got to do, this is what. It's not necessarily that as now that it's gone to an actual visual medium, you're actually seeing all this and they're still talking about all this stuff, and it's like, okay, now you're being redundant. Now I'm not in a way I'm critiquing it about it, but at the same time I'm not critiquing it, because I think that it's fine. As far as that, it's just a little bit too wordy in a lot of cases, and I think that it kind of gets distracting more than it actually is helping the scene. Does that make sense?
I think it's really just I've gotten used to it. I thought the first time I was like, I wrote my impressions for this first episode. I was like, man, this is like info dump, and then I realized that's what it is. It's just the dialogue is always there. So just keep it in mind. If you're a very slow reader or you usually watch dubs, this is probably going to be one you're going to have struggles with. And that's really the reason why I'm bringing it up, mainly because I've gotten used to it and I'm okay with it now. So
it still is not getting to the levels of Monogatari. So,
well, there's no head tilts. Look, he just goes inside the object and in the cockpit, and she just does a little head tilt to look over at him. I would go,
no, not my Hime, not my Hime.
Chef, no. Yeah, and Hime is definitely a very cute character. I want to see more of her, because
I want her.
I like that she's not. I like that she's not a emotionless doll. I was so afraid of. Well, she's the Hime of this thing. She's gonna be an emotionless doll. No, she's gaining. She was the way she was for a reason. Everybody, we're not social with her. She was a princess that went out in battle and won, and then she runs into this guy that's actually communicating with her, and she's the emotions are coming out very quickly. She smiles right off the bat, so it's like, yay, she's not an emotionless doll. I want to see her progress.
I think that one of the cool things, like we said, the fact that Hime is flawed is a cool thing. I don't want her to be just drugged through the mud the entire time. I want her to shine and show that she is worth something. I want her to have something that makes her worth being there.
Now, not a damsel in distress inside of a gigantic
Right now, she's absolutely almost irrelevant. I mean, the fact that she's piloting the big mech is about all she's got right now.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying it, so we'll see where it goes from here. We'll probably do a mid-season review or mid-core review, whatever you want to call it, once the final reviews come for fall. So look forward to that. Moving forward, let's go into JK Meshi.
Do you really want me to bash this thing?
Tell us about this show, Chris.
The arms, they're broke.
No, the show. What's the synopsis? Everybody's got broken arms.
They talk about some random history and then they eat.
No, they talk about school, not necessarily history.
Oh, they talk about school?
Yeah, because they did history.
I can't tell because all I see is broken arms.
Geographic and...
Yes, I don't like this show. It drives me nuts. I can't stand the arms.
This is one of the shows that I was kind of going, should I put this on the simulcast list? This is airing on Crunchyroll, by the way. It is a show about 3 girls that just talk about school. JK is high school, or it's Joshi Koshi or whatever it's called. And then afterwards they cook something and eat, and it looks bad. It looks like Flash Newgrounds kind of animation, and they're talking about high school information. So it's like, yeah, we know that. Cool. Oh, you cooked something, and that's how you made it. Ikedakimasu. Show over. It's a short. It's up to you if you want to try it. There's really nothing there, in my opinion. It's more distracting in the fact that it just doesn't look very good. So.
Yeah, I can't enjoy the characters because their arms are broken.
There's a lot of things broken about their anatomy. So let's move on to something that's not broken. Is The Order of Rabbit Season 2.
Somebody saved me.
Streaming on Crunchyroll again.
Can I cry now?
This is a continuation from the first season. Lots of cute sugary stuff continues on as Cocoa in the Rabbit House Cafe or Rabbit Cafe.
Yes.
Rabbit House.
Rabbit House.
Serves stuff with her
because it was
coworkers.
How did they misspell it in the first season? Rabbit horse?
Horse.
Or
it was horse.
Rabbit horse?
I think it was horse. And yeah, I think it's this season seems to be more focusing on Chino and her friends from her school. That's from the first 3 episodes. That's really a lot of what I'm getting is them just kind of here's Megami and here's what was the other girl, Maya, and they're with Chino and they're doing school related stuff, finding something to draw or whatever. But that seems the direction they're going with, which is perfectly fine with me because they're absolutely adorable. The sugar level is just skyrocketing. The only problem really is we got a full episode of Rise in her home, so that's good for me. But I always have to have my Rise in there. I always have to have my Shadow in there. But it's just more of is The Order of Rabbit. And if you're not watching this and you watch the first season, or if you watch the first season, you're watching this. So that's a given. But if you have not watched any of the show, you can jump right into season 2. I'd advise you go watch season 1 though, because it's all yummy sugar in one bundle, no matter where you're going. So it's been good so far. I've been enjoying it more. So definitely happy.
Lolly's making coffee. I mean, need I say more?
The whole scene in Rize's house was pretty funny though, because they had the whole. Some play card with me, and they're like, no, we really should be going. And then she hurt herself, and then they all started wearing maid costumes, and got to see everybody in maid outfits.
Because they're lollies, and they have coffee. So why the heck not put them in maid outfits?
Yeah. it's purpose. Like it. Good stuff, though. And the greatest thing about the show, the outro is absolutely adorable, and I don't know why it wasn't in our music picks. We always forget some shows for some reason. But it's always fun at the very end of every single episode. We get a rock, paper, scissors with a certain character in the show, and we've made it a point to post on Twitter.
2 ties and 1 win.
Well, yeah, because you did episode 1. I didn't do episode 1 because I didn't realize they were different until then.
He negated himself, unfortunately.
I don't know how you chose something before. No, because I told you that, and you were like, well, which one did you choose? Because I'll choose scissors, and I'm like, well, I already know what it is, so we're starting with episode 2. You got a tie and a win, and I got a tie and a lose, I think.
I got 2 ties.
I was telling Logan, because Logan was tweeting that he got one, and I was like, I think Chris and Logan have, like, insider lolly information, which is kind of breaking the whole thing. Like, how can we enjoy this if you're getting insider information from the lollies? That's not right. I'm crying foul. It's fun though. If you don't have me followed, I'm Otaku Spirited on Twitter, or find the links on otakuspirit.com, because then you can join in every week. Let us know if you won or lost. Don't tell me what they had and what you chose. Just tell me if you won or lost, and that's all we're really doing is saying if we won or lost. But I thought that was kind of funny. I like that whole little element added in there. Mm-hmm. I think another show's doing something like that too.
Yes, there's another show that's doing that.
Yeah, Peeping Life. Yeah. I watched the end of it one episode, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a big old hand comes in front of the screen. I'm like, they're doing it too. Rip off. Izzy Order Rabbit did it first, I think. Probably not, but I'm saying it did because it's cute lollies, and you can't. Adorable outro.
It doesn't matter.
Everything about the show is
it's lollies, so they win.
Yeah. It's just a lot of sugar fun. So if you want sugar fun, I think Izzy Order Rabbit does it in spades. So.
And in case you don't feel like I gushed enough, because really all this, would be is I would just be going gush, 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 gush for 20 minutes. So just take it as it's 20 minutes worth of gushing, and I just condensed it into, it's an awesome show, and I love it, and I don't think it can do any wrong.
Yeah. Good times. Let's move on to Kagewani. Am I saying that right? Kagewani or Kagewani? Kagewani. Or Kagewani. Nay. I don't know. Anyways, it's a short series that is currently airing on Crunchyroll. It follows... I was going to say it. I'm not going to say it. It's basically shorts about a different type of mythological creature or urban legend creature that is terrorizing somebody or a community or something like that. And every now and then this guy named Sosuke shows up with his scar on his face and goes, I gotta stop this. I don't know.
I don't know what
he usually just shows up and looks at a piece of paper, and then that's it. And then the rest of the show is just somebody dealing with it. And then at some point they brought in, I think it's the Masaki guy,
which he's actually like more viable. He's actually more character.
He's actually doing something, and we're kind of seeing a rivalry. But it's I visually I didn't like the show. I'm getting used to it, so it doesn't bother me as much as the first episode. I was like, oh my gosh, this looks terrible.
That's how I felt and forgive me. That's how I felt when I first started watching Yamishibai. Because from what I understand, this is the same group that did Yamishibai, which I love Yamishibai and I love this show. And I think that maybe that I had a little bit of an advantage by watching Yamishibai first. So I got used to, or I was already used to it when I got into this.
Is that the one that had the short stories like this?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I watched
that's the spooky story one.
I watched about 6 episodes of that, but it didn't, of course that was quite a while ago, so I don't know. But yeah, it's grown on me. And the thing that I like about this show, and yeah, I like this show. It's short. It doesn't require too much of you, and I think it helps it because it's really just kind of really quick things happening. Somebody's attacked by something, conclusion. Somebody's attacked by something, conclusion. But what I like about it is it's one of those things that you don't really see much in anime. It has a good feel of suspense. It has that very slow build up to something, that long periods of silence of wondering where the thing is at. It does that very well. It's not overly gory. It's I think the fact that the way it looks the way it does lends itself to not being gory, but they're some of the monsters that they're dealing with are kind of cool, and I like that element of suspense. I like that element of is it around the corner, and it does that really well, and it's something that I really never see in anime, and I'm just soaking it up. It's not fantastic. It's just it's doing a really good job. Much more surprising than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that has translated well from even the Yamishibai and into this one is. It definitely these guys definitely know how to tell a story using this style of animation, which and I agree with my brother. It doesn't look as good as a true what is a good way of putting it? The difference between the two. This is almost a slide cutout style type thing. Things move like that. And it is not.
I think the other one was a lot of stills.
Yeah, that's the same.
This is where it's at. It's taking them and they're kind of running. They're cutouts. They're running along almost like a very. It feels like the room that they're in and has depth to it and stuff.
Yeah, both of them have the same feel. Okay. They both look the same, and that. But the thing is, what I like about the team that's behind the show is they know how to use that to their advantage to build the suspense, tell the story, and I think that's where this group shines. Is they are good at telling a story. Even in this lock stock 3-4 minutes, are these ones 7 minutes or are these 3 minutes too?
I think there's 3 or 4 because they're really short. It might be 5. 7. Yeah, 7's right.
So they actually got a little bit more time to breathe on this show, but yeah, they still have that ability to create the suspense and work with the story, and I think that is what this show does great.
Yeah, it was like the first episode was like it had a kind of a kind of creepy chuckle moment in the episode, but it just had a lot of that kind of suspense. The second episode was kind of clever in what they did with the character and what she was dealing with and how she tried to overcome it. I'll just say that. The third was kind of more of one of those ones where you're like, so there's this aspect to the monster, which is kind of interesting. But the last episode was kind of where I kind of seen them shine. It had 7 minutes to work with. It quickly established characters and it kind of showed a little bit of what is behind the character. They're a really quick glimpse of who they are in such a short period of time to where you're invested in wanting to see them escape the situation. And I think that's very, very clever. You have that much time and you just made me accept these characters that quickly.
And that's where I thought that the second episode, that was the ice episode. I thought that's where that episode shined. Is it gave me a character, it gave me a back motivation, it gave me an interesting storyline. It threw me in the middle of this situation with this character, and I was like, wow, now I'm dealing with the monster, and I want to see this character escape. I loved it. All this was done in 7 minutes, and I was
7
like,
minutes and 50
wow.
seconds. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's not that much of an investment, and if you like spooky stuff, it's definitely it has that for it. If you're not liking the spooky stuff, you probably want to stray from it. But I got a recommendation on it because it's good. It's very, very promising show, and I like what they're doing, even though it was a little off-putting at first.
And we still don't know what Bomba is for.
Yeah, still don't know what he's for. He just shows up and looks at papers. Every time he looks at a piece of paper. Moving forward, let's go into another short, and that is Hakone-chan, or Onsen Yosai Hakone-chan. And this is a short about a guy, I think his name is Toya.
Who cares about that? We only care about the lolly.
I'm telling the synopsis. And one day while he is cleaning up his shrine, he drops a steam bun into the water, and the god of that spring shows up. Her name is Hakone, and she's like, I want more of these. And then it quickly established that he has some kind of crush on this other girl named Haruna, and apparently she's going to help him get that figured out and worked out. But unfortunately, Hakone doesn't have much power. Her power, for some reason, is not as strong as it used to be. And then, of course, they are slowly kind of swept up in the community and how they keep tourists entertained. And she's going to join them in doing that because she's very open about the fact that she has magical powers, and everybody's kind of surprised about that. But it's okay show. It's not much investment. It's got quite a few little chuckles in there. Characters are kind of cute and fun, but not much else to say about that.
Oh, not really. It's cute.
It's quick comedy,
and she's the hot spring girl. I absolutely love some of the silly things.
When she vomits out the water.
Vomits the water.
You don't believe me? Yeah. Wow, this water is very soothing. It's like, oh my gosh, she just vomited out water.
My skin's all shiny and
soothing and youthful.
But yeah, it's a short. So I mean, there's not a lot that we can say. It's just it's adorable and it works.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all there is to say. That's all there is to say. Move on to more lolly action. We have Lance N Masques. That's the Japanese title too. It's streaming on Crunchyroll. This one follows the Knight Lancer. What's his real name? Yotaro. Yeah, it's Yotaro. And Yotaro is from it's in the 21st century, but yet there is still an organization of people who train knights, actual knights, like from the olden days. And those knights are sent out to the world, and they help support the world in various ways. And Yotaro, even though he was just knighted, he wanted a life of peace, even though his father is known as like the greatest knight there ever was. He just wants a peaceful life alone, away from the academy. And so he goes to what I would assume is Tokyo or something. But he has a weird thing about him. He's got this, I think it's called the chivalry syndrome, I think he calls it, where basically whenever he sees a girl in distress, he just changes his persona to a very, very old school chivalrous knight. So he rushes up there, helps her, and then goes down on one knee, kisses her hand, and says, "I'm here for you, my lady. Let me be your protector for all eternity," kind of thing. He's just way over the top, your knight in shining armor kind of trope-ish kind of character in his syndrome. And that kind of leads to him being called a pervert most of the cases. But he ends up finding this girl who is, name I'm forgetting, Makio. And Makio is falling from a training. I didn't know they had training things this high, but it's a training mountain climbing thing on the side of this park. And she's falling, and he saves her. And she actually finds his knightlyhood charming and likes it, and calls him her Night Lancer. But then he kind of loses his mask, and which is supposedly hiding his identity. And then she finds him alone off the side, not dressed up as the Night Lancer, and just kind of brings him into her home because he looks like he's just a bum and needs food. So he's brought into her state, and you come to find out that she is the daughter of a very prestige and high, very rich family of, it's like a corporation or something like that. But she's all alone there. Her parents aren't there. Her parents are somewhere else, and she's left alone in this house full of maids who don't communicate with her because they were told not to.
And they leave her alone at night.
Yeah. And so he decides to kind of make it his duty to protect her, and which is needed because she's quickly under attack by different corporations, and he's always there to save her, even though she doesn't know his true identity. And you're also joined with his basically his sensei from back when he was at the Night Academy, which was also like a maid lady who's always trained him. Also joined with his squire, basically, and his horse. Yeah, and then over time,
she was his maid, and she just was in charge of training him.
Yeah, or something like that. I'm on the board of the idea that might be his mom, but that's a whole different thing. And of course, the original maid that was taking care of her, her brother from the orphanage, I'm going to call him a brother because it totally is like a brother because I don't like him, who is constantly trying to attack him because he claims that they were bullying his sister, which is really stupid, but I'm going with it. A whole bunch of people. I think I told Chris, like, the last episode, I was like, this is rivaling Najima right here. Every episode, he's getting like 2 people added to his harem, and this house is getting packed full of people. The action's okay in the show. It kind of stumbles here and there, but overall, it looks okay. I'm not a huge fan of the character designs, but they're kind of growing on me. But it's just kind of, it's just a stupid harem. That's really all I can give it. I'm not really engaged with the story. The character logics are broken left and right. Half the time I don't understand why somebody's there or who they're looking for. I keep confusing who's sister and why somebody's there for whatever reason. It's cute every now and then, especially with Makio and her, how she reacts to Yotaro, but overall it's just really kind of a simple harem that really has no huge depth to it.
It's missing a drive.
I can agree with that.
I think that is the biggest problem that this show has. As a harem, it's fine. The characters are adorable. And I think that one of the biggest problems is right now, by this moment, I need a drive to see a reason for these characters and what they're doing.
They had something for a brief moment there, but it just like within the end of the episode, it was like, nah, we're done. It's like, wait. You had a drive for a second.
Yeah, and I think that's the main frustration that I have with this show. I mean, And that's the biggest problem is the longer that they take to give these characters a reason to exist and a reason to keep going in a direction, the easier it is for people the more and more that people will fall off on this show. But as far as it looks great to me, I think that the characters are fun and cute, and I enjoy my time with a lot of these characters, but I don't see any point to anything right now. He's just running around saving girls.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of girls. I do like the maid training lady though. She's pretty cool. I like her when she shows up and just kind of wrecks the situation. But yeah, I think a lot of my enjoyment really just comes in the fact of just the reaction of the characters with his chivalryness. But I like that they're not getting too sexual with Makio, because the big concern that was coming into this was like, oh, it's a lolly harem. And it's like, yeah, technically there's a lot of lolly characters, but there's no sexual tension being forced into the situation, so it doesn't go into the realm of uncomfortable. So if that was your stopping point from this show, don't worry, because they're not really pushing it in my opinion. So that could change, but it's just kind of sweet, and in that regard, is not ecchi or over the top. It's very clean, and shockingly enough, I guess.
I did like the fact that she went from the idea of I'm going to be a hero to I'm going to be the hero's wife type thing. I thought that was absolutely adorable and fun. But yeah, it's cute.
Yeah. It's cute. A lot of cute moments in it. I agree. There's a lot of cute moments in it that kind of help me keep watching it, because I'm always confused as to what the hell is going on. Moving forward.
I think that the last episode was just confusing in general. It wasn't necessarily that.
I guess I was trying too hard to connect people, and I really shouldn't have, because I was like, who is she looking for the entire time? I'm like, wait, I don't think we even know. I don't think she's even there yet, so that's fine. Another show that I'm having issues with. I just should have put these back to back. Next one we have is Concrete Revolutio. This was a show that when I seen it pop up, I was very excited about it, because it looked very Blood Blockade Battlefront, and it had a really cool style to it. But we'll get to that in a minute. This show takes place in a world where everything exists. Superhumans basically exist. Your magical girls, your gigantic heroes that transform into gigantic people and fight back. Your spellcasters, all these superhumans, shapeshifters, all exist in this world. And the big model of the thing is that there's this organization that this Jiro guy is, who's pretty much the main character of the show. This organization their motto is the idea that there's, superhumans come to, or superheroes come to save people or humans, but who takes care of the superhumans? And so their organization is built around the idea of hiding away superheroes or superhumans, protecting them, saving them, stopping them, and keeping order in the world that is kind of havoc, which is, again, is kind of drawing parallels to Blood Blockade Battlefront. And quickly you kind of establish Jiro is looking for this information that has been given, that is going to be given to another country. Kiko is kind of pulled into it. She's working at a cafe, and she's secretly a magical girl. And that just kind of blows up into her joining the organization that he is a part of, and them going out again and seeking out different groups and stopping bad guys, whatever. First off, visually, I like the style of this show. It doesn't always look fantastic, but what I like about it is it has a very unique style to it. It's very comic book kind of looking, which lends itself to the idea of superhumans and its setting and everything. It has a very comic book look. All the shading's done with kind of the comic book dots that they do with comics. It looks cool. I like the style of the show. That's pretty much where I leave off for positives. So I don't know if you should go first, or if I should just lay in there and then you can come in and rescue it.
I'm mixed on the show, so
That's my problem. I want to enjoy this show because, again, I get a lot of Blood Blockade fights from it, but the problem is I don't care about any of the characters. I recently, in the last episode that we watched, was episode 4, I started liking them pulling in Emmy. I think Emmy's like the only character I'm kind of really interested in. She has a very mysterious aspect to her. Nothing. They're not coming out in the open with everything she has right off the bat.
But the problem is that with the way that the style of this show, do you think that they're actually going to talk about her in the next episode? That's the main problem that I have with
They're hinting a lot about it already, so I don't know.
The main
they could never touch it.
Yeah. The main. I mean, I liked the magical girl in the first episode. I haven't seen her since the first episode. I mean.
Well, she's been in an episode. Yeah, I mean, her, the magical girl.
She pops in every once in a while.
She's in every episode. I don't know what you're talking about.
Barely. I mean, the character that has more of anything is Jiro, but he's
very unlikable, and that's my problem with the show. Yeah. He's like the main character, and he's not likable. And the hugest. Let's get this elephant out of the room. It's right here, and I keep bumping into it. This show is all over the place with time wise. Yeah. And the only thing that I finally, I think in the episode 3, I finally kind of attached to something was the aspect that in the future, Jiro always has a scarf on and he's got his weapon arms always kind of revealed a lot. It's constantly jumping to the past, the future, and it never gives a
well, you picked that transition. Up and I didn't. So
that's the only thing I could attach to, and it took me until episode 3 before I finally realized he always has a scarf. He's like a rogue. He's got his little scarf. But this show is like all over the place, and it doesn't establish where you're at what time, and it's constantly jumping back and forth that you can't establish, okay, we're in the present, or, oh, this is the past again, or, I mean, right off the bat, I was going, wait, you just joined his team. Why is she yelling that she's 20 and he's jumping off the side of the thing? What are we doing here? It's very disjointed and very hard to follow, in my opinion. And that's my biggest huge.
Well, I would think that you would love this kind of show because isn't that the way that Durarara is?
No, because very rarely jumps around.
I felt that it was all over the place, but
it's all over the place in a certain time. It very rarely does jump back. So when it does, you know when it's doing that. That's the difference.
The thing is with this show, my main and I'm agreeing with him is I have no idea what time is what, and so. When things are playing out, it feels like you're understanding what's going on, and then suddenly it doesn't make sense, and then you're starting to make sense, and then all of a sudden it's back to the other timeline, and it's like I have no idea who is doing what and why they're doing who, and it's all over the place. But I like the characters, I like the style, I like a lot of the things that are going on in this show.
The Android story was interesting.
There's so much here that I want to dig into, but I can't because it's like I have this big old juicy piece of meat in front of me and I'm getting ready to take a bite and somebody's yanked it out of my mouth, and it's like I can't bite because it's being yanked out.
It was my meat, so I took it from her. But no, I want to enjoy it because, like I said, it's the type of show that I like. I like where it's just chaos. There's all these characters, and I want to find out more about each character. It is an original, so I'm hoping that we will get Emi's conclusion or more information about Emi. Because, like I said, she's the only thing that's kind of interesting, and that's because they've been holding her cards right, and I like that. I like that little here's a little bit more kind of thing that they're doing with her. Whereas everybody else is kind of like, here they are, and they're not really interesting, and I'm not following them very well. They had the whole shapeshifter episode, didn't care. The first episode, didn't care. The android story was interesting. The last episode was, I don't care, except for the end where I got a little bit of Emi.
Hey, I liked the shapeshifter. The ghost was cool.
I didn't care much for it. And again, that was a case of it being all over the place. I was like, wait, who's this flying thing? And, oh, okay, I guess that's that bug. Oh, I don't know. I'm confused. It's just, I think it just has a very huge problem with how it tells its stories, and I'm sure there's plenty of really interesting stories there. It's just not doing a good job of it, and it just doesn't have the characters to support it, to keep me going until they do that, so I'm struggling with it.
I'm having a hard time latching onto characters, and I think that's really where I'm having my biggest problem, because, I mean, anytime I do connect to a character, they're yanked out from under me. So, I mean, at this point, I don't know what's the point at this moment. I mean, I've already had 3 characters which I've liked that I've been yanked out, and I have no idea where they are. So
they disappear. Keiko's still there, Chris.
No, they took away my magical girl. They took away
She's always been
ghost.
There.
They took away.
The ghost has always been there.
The only guy that I keep getting is the one I don't like.
What show are you watching? Oh, okay. All right, let's move on to the biggest show of the season, Chris. Saving Anime. Do you know what that show is?
I don't think it's Saving Anime, but we'll go with it.
This is One Punch Man, or One Punch Man, as I pointed in our preview. This show follows Saitama, who is known as or I guess it's kind of revealed recently that he's kind of self-taught or self-designated as One Punch Man. I don't know. But he is a guy who, in a world where there's villains, he was confronted as a typical salaryman by a crabman guy who ended up kind of letting him live because he was so pathetic, because he was like, I just failed an interview and I don't really have the energy to run. He lets him live, and then to save some boy with a very big chin, he decided to fight the crabman and ended up spending 3 years training himself nonstop with very vigorous training until his hair fell out and never grows back, and he becomes this very, 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 very strong person that is able to basically kill anything with one single punch, to the point that he gets bored. Yep. He's bored of being a hero because nothing can really stand up to him. He punches him and it dies, and he's always kind of disappointed. But yeah,
except for a mosquito.
Yeah, he failed, but he didn't punch the mosquito, so there's the caveat. So every time you see him actually hit something and it doesn't blow up, it's because he's not necessarily punching them. So that's the whole thing. He has to punch them. But yeah, this show is really a kind of a spoof off of the idea of a hero, and it does that really most all the time. There's an issue, he's bored of it, he doesn't want to get involved, and then he's kind of forced to get involved. He does get involved, and it always ends in him punching and destroying it in one shot. And that's really kind of the hit and miss of the show for me, is really this concept of, I like a lot of the humor in the play off of that element, but at the same time, my biggest issue with the show is that they spend a huge, enormous amount of time explaining to me about this bad guy that he's going to deal with, and then he punches him and it's done.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I really like a lot of what the shows do. It looks great. Visually, it looks great. Not like cool designs and everything. It's just really the animation smoothness is very great. They're doing a really good job of just the combat itself looking very smooth, very well animated, very kind of old school, high production value kind of animation. And I like the humor, but then my issue then comes in the other gigantic, enormous amount of time that we're spending really kind of pointing out why this guy is a bad guy and what they're doing, and then punch is done. It's like, I always know they're getting into this big old thing, and it's like, I know you're just going to punch and it's going to blow up, so what's the point in you telling me everything about this character? I'm okay with it when it's telling me about it in a humorous way, and then kind of joking about his not caring about listening to the whole spiel because he doesn't care. But every now and then it'll spend that enormous amount of time just dialogue, blah 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 blah. This is what I'm doing, blah 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 blah, and this is the great evolution of mankind, blah 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 blah. Punch, done. So I love a lot of aspects of the show. I like a lot of the humor, and then I'm struggling with this useless dialogue that I don't really see a point in. Is really my thing with the show.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the thing with me is I admit that I was really looking forward to this show because the amount of hype around this show is just insane.
Hype train.
Oh, big time. And maybe there's an aspect of it that is kind of just miss for me. I'm watching the show and I feel like I don't know how to describe it, because I do see a lot of the humor. I think that a lot of the things that it's doing right work, but on the same token, I can't. I see this aspect of, like Andrew was saying, the idea of no matter what, it's always going to be ended in one punch. And yeah, that's funny in a way, but at the same time, there's this frustration in what's the point to everything. I mean, I hate this because
I think they're going to get to a point I'm not sure if it's going to be a huge thing. And if you've read the manga, don't worry about telling me. I don't really care to know. It's just, I know that it seems like they're probably getting to one of the huge focus issues with the show is it doesn't have a focus, as you say, but I think they're getting into that with the whole, you have to join this organization in order to get paid to be a hero kind of thing. And I'm hoping that's going to develop into something. But so far, we really have is, I'm bored and I defeat things too easily. And then here's this robot guy that shows up that wants to be, his underling. And here's how I got to where I was at.
And one of the things is whenever I hear people talk about this show, it's always they're always winning by one punch, and that is through the entire story. From what I understand, that is the entire story. And okay, well, yeah, that's fine. But just throwing different types of enemies at him doesn't change the fact that he's still going to win with one punch.
Carman.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So what is the interest? I mean, what is it that I'm going to be? Yeah, the mosquito chick, she was gorgeous. I thought she was absolutely gorgeous.
He brings up female.
He blew her up. I mean, I'm not interested in anybody else. I mean, I'm not saying that I have to have a female character to be interested in this show.
You brought it up.
I know, but I mean, visually appealing. That girl was beautiful. Outside of that, I mean, he's boring looking, and I feel like I'm absolutely bashing the show, and I'm not. There is things that I like about this show, but how far can this go? 12 episodes of the exact same thing that I've already seen the exact same thing. I've laughed, twice during the show?
I don't know.
Once when the guy reached up and knocked his brother out. That was hilarious.
That was messed up. That was messed up.
And I think I may have chuckled a little bit with the accidental punch to a
Sonic.
Yeah. But that was it. I have not. I see the humor. I can understand the humor. I like the fact that they're spoofing on the superhero aspect. I like that. But this show, how is it going to translate through the entire 12 episodes? Because right now, I've seen the exact same thing. I would have to say 7 different characters, the exact same situation, over and over and over again for 7 episodes, or for 7 different characters. Guy shows up, he's punched him. Guy shows up, he punches him. Guy shows up, he punches him. Yeah, each one of them has weird little quirks in each one of them. The bicycle guy was interesting. I thought that was a little bit amusing, but it's still, in the next episode, I'll probably get maybe 2 more characters, and each one of them will show up and he'll get punched. Another character is going to show up and he's going to get punched.
I had that feeling coming in the first episode, and then it kind of shifted to realizing that a lot of it has to do with what's outside of things shows up and it punches it. Like I said, though, my issue is really spending that time developing that one thing that he's going to punch. I find the humor in the superhero in a rural setting, and like I said, I'm hoping that this whole thing with the you must sign up to this thing in order to get paid, this kind of superhero directory kind of thing, will bring something interesting. But I enjoy a lot of aspects of the show, so I hope that they don't, again, go back into that thing too many times, because I agree, it is kind of repetitive, and every battle's always ended in a single same way. But I think a lot of the elements of struggle will only come in the side characters, like, okay, robot guy wants to fight this thing, so now we're going to see how strong the thing is before he comes up and punches him, kind of thing.
Pretty much.
They're like power gauging, really, is what all it really is. So
well, that's like the evolution guy. It was interesting.
No,
but,
it wasn't.
But then it got hit, and that was it. I was like, okay, so what was the point of the entire thing involving the guy who can clone himself? He was interested in creating this next evolution, and all that crap went away in 2 seconds.
Yeah. But I like I said, I like a lot of the little trope things they're kind of breaking with it, like the whole mosquito thing, the when they come to the big bad guy's lair, it's like you always think, why don't you just blow up the building? They do it. It's like, okay, that was funny. I like that whole thing. So as long as I keep doing that, I'll be entertained. So that's the elements that I'm looking forward to, is just the trope elements being broken with humor, not really necessarily about the punching, though the action is really well done. So I look forward to more of it. And like I said, I hope they don't keep doing the let's develop what he's going to punch, because that part I could do without. So yeah, One Punch Man, Hades. I think the side tangent or side rant that I really want to do, that I kind of was thinking of doing, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to get into it. I think my biggest issue with this show is the fandom behind it. The hype train is what always ends up killing things, but the issue that I'm having right now is the parallel hype train alongside the show as it goes along, is this whole, I seen this scene in the manga and it looked so much better than the animation. It's like, you like that more than this. It happens like every single week where somebody will post, this is what was in the manga and it looks so much better than this animation crap. And it's like, where are you seeing this? That was 6 frames of something, and you're talking about an animation where there's like, 1,000 frames or more than 1,000 frames probably in a single episode. How do you say that 4 looks better than this animated? That doesn't make any sense to me. My mind doesn't follow where you're going with that. Yeah, the Sonic scene was one of the biggest ones, and it was like, you just showed me 6 frames of white bars going around him. Yeah, I like the whole camera pan that they were doing with the manga, but technically that didn't look that great. All you had there was the fact that they panned around his face, whereas the animation was just around him. I don't see that argument, and it's just kind of silly and how that's kind of being portrayed. But that's me. I don't know if that's something that you want to be upset about, then all the power to you. It's just kind of upsetting to see that.
Yeah, I mean,
follow along with it.
I mean, don't
enjoy it.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I enjoy it because of what it does. It is good for what it's doing. Like I said, I appreciate the spoofs towards the superhero aspect. I like the jokes that it's doing to toy with the shonen genre. I enjoy that, and I appreciate it.
Are you apologizing for yourself after my rant?
No.
I'm
apologizing for myself in general, because for some reason One Punch Man's not working for me as much as it seems to be working for everybody else.
It doesn't have enough cute characters.
That's exactly what it is.
It doesn't really have any cute characters.
All they have to do is add a lolly, and
he's gonna be sold. He's gonna
be sold.
He just humanized everybody with that lolly character, so it's great.
This is the show of the year. It is saving anime because it has a lolly in it,
and it humanized everybody. So Tomi, I could not get with him until that lolly showed up, and then it humanized him. Let's move on to Young Blackjack. This is a series that is airing on Crunchyroll. I decided, even though I have not watched the original series, to go ahead and jump into this because it's a prequel, and I heard a lot of people raving about it. So it follows basically the guy that's in the original series, Kuro, as he is still a student. He is a medical student, and he's kind of pulled into situations that he has to involve his skill. Over time, you're kind of learning how he is very meticulous about learning what he's doing. He trains on fish. He's constantly acting out a surgery procedure on a bench out somewhere while everything else is happening. He's very devoted to learning this craft. You kind of get a little bit of insight into kind of his history, why he does what he does. It's kind of constant struggle with his inner self, which I don't know anything about yet. Maybe that's explained in the original series. I don't know. But what I'm enjoying about this show is kind of following him as he deals with these situations that he's dealing with as a medical student. He's constantly having to deal with, I can't do this procedure because I'm still a medical student. I could lose my license if I do this kind of thing. And that's really kind of the interesting element of the show, is just, it does well in, the medical procedures aren't really well shown. They don't show like cutting. They don't show the inners. They don't show anything involving the surgery. It's really just kind of how he deals with the situation. Early on, you get this whole situation where this kid is lost his limbs, and he is basically doing the procedure off the side where he really shouldn't be, and overcoming something. They had this whole situation where he is he has a really big debt, so he's brought in to do a heart transplant, which of course back in that time, heart transplants didn't work. If it worked, if they pulled it off, the person would die within a year or something like that right afterwards. So it was just something you didn't do. And yet they kind of figure out a way of him overcoming that situation. And now they're kind of getting into him being in Vietnam. And the thing that the first episode was okay. I thought it was decent, had a pretty good amount of little suspense in there. It was, I think, the second episode that really sold me on the show, because it pulled something off with the situation he was in that I did not see coming from a mile away. And when it happened, it was like, oh, that's clever. I like what they did there. That was really cool what they did there. And then to kind of play that off into the next episodes was equally as good. I like what they're doing with the show. It's got decent animation. It's got decent character build. It's got the situations he deals with are decently well written. A lot of it's dealing with the Vietnam War. So I want to see what story they're telling with there, because Vietnam War is kind of a touchy subject for a lot of people. So I want to see what they're going to do with that moving forward. But so far it's been good. And even though I haven't watched any of the original series, I'm not lost in any way. Like I said, there's some elements in it, like his inner personality that he's struggling with, that might be explained in the original series, and I just don't know. If you know, that I don't want to know about it. I'll just deal with it as it goes along. But it's good so far. I like the suspense in it. I like the writing and a lot of the situations he's dealt with. So it's a recommended, especially if you haven't watched the original series. Give it a shot. I think you'll know if the show's good or not by the second episode. If you're not feeling it by that point, you'll not by the end of second episode. I think that's where you see the clever writing they have in there. So it's a good show. Definitely check it out.
You sold me. I'm thinking about actually checking it out.
At least the second episode. Second episode is good. I really like it. I want to see more of that. Third episode was good too, and the fourth episode is getting into some pretty touchy stuff. It's very. The fourth episode was getting very. It's one of those moments where they show that they're not afraid of getting into certain things that might be a little bit disturbing. So keep that in mind as well. It gets very graphical with the situation in Vietnam during that time. So be aware of that. It gets violent. So yeah. Let's move on to Noragami Aragoto, sorry. And that is a show that I am way excited about because I love the first season. We're not going to get too much into details. I was going to think of putting this at the end because we ended up deciding to put two shows at the end of each episode that were kind of spoilerish. I don't think that Noragami had anything really big that would spoil going in the second season. So if you don't know about the original series, it follows Yato, who is a stray god. He is a god that doesn't even have a shrine to his name. He does really crappy jobs in order to make ends meet. And you kind of learn that he's what they call a god of calamity. He gains a weapon that is all these gods kind of have human spirits that they turn into weapons by giving them a name. And at some point he meets Hiroyuki, who is a human who ends up having an issue where she separates from her body at random times. And going into the second season, we're getting into Bishamon, who from the first season, Bishamon was a god of justice or whatever. She's a god of war who kind of brings justice upon evildoers. And you knew that there was kind of a bond between Yato and Bishamon because she wanted to get revenge for something in the first season. Well, now we're getting into that. We're getting into Bishamon. We're getting into the insides of her group. We're learning a whole bunch about her and her people, her spirits that she has named. She's got a whole bunch of them. We're getting into the past of Yato and Bishamon, and we're kind of progressing into where we have a certain person is trying to bring Bishamon down at the same time. And it's about all again to the story-wise. My gosh, this has been a amazing season. I'm loving every bit of it. There's nothing in this season that I am not liking. I am liking learning more about Bishamon. I like her whole organization, I would call it. I love getting the insights into there, the elements that they're bringing into play, the idea of basically resetting a god, all that kind of stuff is just, I'm loving all of it. I'm soaking it up. The tension is just insane. The cliffhangers are killing me every single episode. I can't stop gushing. I'm loving everything about this season, and I can't get enough of it, and I want more.
Just condense 20 minutes of gush into one statement. You know,
and it will save us all time.
Yeah.
Just know that I'm going to just replace the next 20 minutes. No, I'm going to replace the next 20 minutes with just saying there's 20 minutes of gush after this point, and there you go, done.
There you go. So basically, a synopsis of what Andrew's saying is, why aren't you watching this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My turn. I love it.
Gush. 20 minutes of gush. There you go.
Yeah. I like that they're hitting some things that I was very upset with the first season. There was things that I was missing out on in the first season, and they're hitting them. Still not enough Nora. Why are we not talking about Nora? A very important character right there.
I don't even care. I mean, all of it's happening right now. I don't care about Nora. She can be off the side. I'm loving what's happening right now.
Well, at least they're not taking her and hanging her in front of me the entire time going, hey, you really want to know about this character, don't you?
You got to see a little bit of her and
she's
with Yato in the past. That was cool.
She's definitely there. Yeah, it's gotten into kind of how she was more influential in the past. She's definitely tied in with the main antagonist. I almost said his name a few minutes ago. She's tied in with the main bad guy of this season, but it's not that she's up in the forefront and saying, "Hey, I'm here," like she was in the first season. But yeah, I like it. It's hitting a lot of the points that I really wanted to know in the first season. Now it's hitting them in this season. So it's working in a lot of ways. I love the way that they're like we said during, what was it, a couple podcasts ago. I love the fact that right now we feel like we're in the end arc of this show. And
we're only 5 episodes in.
We're still only 5 episodes. And I think I was saying this 2 episodes ago. It's
ever since episode 5, I think it was episode 5 or episode 2. I'm sorry. Ever since episode 2, it ramped up and it just keeps hitting it. Like
it's hitting
the emotional points are good. I mean, Yuki, like his outburst against Bishamon and the struggle with Hiyori off the side. It was like every scene that I'm getting, I'm just soaking it up and I'm just loving the tension. I'm loving the emotion that's happening in the scenes. It's just. I'm gushing again. I there's nothing that I can say that's wrong with this. And it goes with this, like, we're only 5 episodes in. I'm seriously wondering how we're going to have 8 more episodes of this because you guys ramped up. I mean, are we going to drop at some point? I'm definitely afraid of it's just of this just kind of diving down and soothing out. And it's cool to know that I think in my peeking in the manga for purposes of buying it and seeing what certain points were, it's important to know, like, with the first season, you had like this whole thing with, Yato getting Yukine, and that was really in the first parts of the manga. And then you had like the whole thing towards the end with the guy that Nora had brought back from his Yato's past. I don't think any of that was in the manga, and I think it was right into the Bishamon arc. So we went right into Bishamon with this season because they have the content ready for it. And I just hope that they have the content for it for the entire segment of it. My biggest issue with the show is the fact that I'm afraid of where it's going to go after this season, because I was like, I want more of this. I don't know if it has more material, so I guess we'll find out once it concludes. If maybe one day in 2020, when we finally have the latest manga that is currently out for Noragami now, because it takes them 5 years to get any of this crap out, I'll know. But for now, I'm loving every bit of it. I'm liking seeing more of this world. The rule sets and stuff that they're kind of bringing out, just, I love it. The like I said, the reset thing for the gods, and you're constantly wondering, are they going to do it? Is that what they're going to do with this? Or all these other little kind of rules and the what do they call it, the corruption and how it affects the other weapons, and all that stuff is really cool.
I love the world building they're doing in this. I like the rules involving the gods' worlds, and it has to be. I didn't quite understand why Yato couldn't get there, but he had to go to another god to,
because he didn't have a shrine. You have to have a shrine or
it was the shrine that gave him the ability to go.
That's why he had to ask him, please let me go through with your shrine, kind of thing. So cool. I like it. So
yeah, that's what I'm talking. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, that the world building that they're doing in those respects as well.
Another show with some amazing world building is Komori-san Can't Decline. This is a short series that is airing currently on Crunchyroll. This show follows Shuri Komori, who can't, like the title says, it can't decline. She's in high school or junior high school, and she, every time somebody asks her anything, she agrees to it. They need help with this, she'll help them with that. Help me move this, sure. She just never says no to anybody that needs help, and that's pretty much the show. And she's joined with her two friends who constantly question why she can't tell people no, and
yeah, it almost seems like they want to get mad at her for doing it.
They're all tsunderes.
I love it. I think it's a sweet show. I think it's adorable in a lot of cases. I think that they play off of the humor involving her overabundance of trying to say no, but she can't. She just can't. I like the toying with the idea of her larger stature being involved in the fact that she's constantly working hard, and I think that it shines on that aspect.
I still haven't seen the magical power she's getting.
The magical power is that she's large stature.
They've never said that.
It's not magical, but that is what is so special about her. She gets incredible strength, and she's super big because she can't stop.
That has never been implied. And then my issue with the show is that it's based off of like 4 panels, and so every episode's like this done, this done, cast scroll, and so it really feels like there's a complete lack of substance. The only thing that I'm really getting out of the show is that it's charming. It's got a lot of heart in it. If anything I get from the show, and if it's the only thing I get out of it, it's fine because it's such a short series. I mean, it's like 2 minutes long, and like a minute and a half of it is the song. So it's like the only thing I really get out of it is just it's this element of being good, and that's all I get out of it. It's just it gives you that feeling of wanting to do something good for people, and that's if that's all I get from it, then that's fine because it's not a huge investment. So it's heartwarming, that desire. So good on you if you want to check it out. It's not much of an investment. So, and it's cute. Well, like I hinted at before, I kind of mentioned the idea that our final show that we're going to talk about at the end of both these podcasts is going to be a show that has spoilers involved with talking about it at all. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and conclude at this point, and after our ending song we're going to come back in and Seraph of the End battle in Nagoya. So if you have not watched the first season of Seraph of the End, we will part ways with you at this point, and please don't listen after the closing song, which will be the ED for Is the Order a Rabbit Season 2, which I completely forgot to put in our musical podcast, which is Tokimeki Poporon by Chimami Tai, which I think is basically the cast of those 3 cute lolly girls from Is
Everybody's going to love it. It's so adorable.
Yeah.
The song is adorable. I mean,
and at the conclusion,
it screams cute just from being the song.
And at the conclusion of that song, we will do a quick rock, paper, scissors. So get ready for what you're going to choose and let us know in the comments, because then it'll play off that. But then if you haven't watched Seraph of the End, stop listening to us after that so you don't get spoiled. So yeah, if you're not going to listen after that rock, paper, scissors, which you will listen to the rock, paper, scissors because you like us, we will part ways with you at this point. Thank you for listening. Definitely look forward to next week when we'll have the second part of our first impressions for the fall 2015 season. Again, we're at takuspirit.com. You can go there for our news, reviews, and coverage of new and old anime, as well as our forums at the top, social media links on the side, all that good jazz. And we thank you for listening, and y'all take care.
Os.
All right, here we go. We're going to go rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Scissors.
I got scissors too.
Okay.
So did I tie with you?
We tied. I don't know what they did. If they did paper, they lose. But they'll let us know.
If they did rock, they knocked both of us out, didn't they?
They did. There's actually a way you can win both of us.
Dude, you're awesome.
Okay, we're going to move from this point. So again, if you haven't watched Warrior No Seraph or Seraph of the End Season 1, at this point we will part ways with you. And we're going to jump right into there. So yeah, the big reason why I didn't want to just have this first impressions and the regular stuff is because a lot of what we're dealing with right now in Seraph of the End is dealing with Yurichiro and his being a Seraph of the End, or this. Apparently, they're kind of pointing out the fact that both Mikkel and Yurichiro are both like Seraphs that are actually tools that both these sides technically want, and they kind of hint at this idea that they were put into the orphanage a long time ago, and now there are. See, that's the thing that I'm liking most about this season, and this is kind of one of those pointless aspects of this being in our first impression, is that if you have watched the first season, you're probably watching the second season, but I'm liking that in this very beginning of this, because I had huge issues with the first season and the fact that it was like, I like the world, you're not really giving me too much to work with, though, and it seems like it was like a tester, and now we're in the second season, and now they're going, boom, this is all we have, and I'm going, oh, okay, soak up, I'm liking all this stuff we're doing, because there's just so much plot hitting my face in those first 2 episodes of the season that I'm liking everything you're doing. They're bringing in the fact that they're both Seraphs, and that they could be tools that both these sides want. They're getting more into Cruel and the council, and how she has to deal with them, and how she's a part of this, leading this one area, and how she's trying to keep that control. You're getting into Shinoa and the fact that her sister is technically, they went into how they make the demon blades and how that's involved with the sister and Gurren. They're bringing in that other platoon that Gurren's having to kind of go against, that they're kind of afraid of. All these elements I'm loving, and that's I can say now that even though I had issues with the first season, I'm invested in the show now, because I'm liking all this subplot that's in there that is, I think, is going to help keep the show moving in its overall plot. I think in the first season you had that overall plot, but now they're giving me all those little subplots to keep me moving.
There's a production value increase as well.
Yes, it looks a lot better in the first season.
I love a lot of these things. I love the politics involving the vampires, the politics involving the humans. I like the demons. I love the how the demons are, not the demons, but the demon blades, and how that all works, and the teases that they're implying that are involving the vampires, and there's just so much here, and even when we were doing the review, I was like, there is so much here. I can't wait to dig into it, and like we were talking about the other day when we were watching it, it was like, there's a whole nother realm that you can go on just with who is the Gurren.
Gurren is their captain.
The captain. He himself. There's an entire arc that can be laid out just from him alone. Cruel, you can get into this guy that's underneath Cruel that seems to be undermining her everywhere she goes.
Farid needs to die.
Yeah, you can play with that. You can toy with the Seraphs. You can toy with the beasts of the apocalypse. What are they called?
They're horsemen.
The horsemen of the apocalypse. You can toy with those. There's so much in this show, and I love that they're piecemealing it out just a little bit of it at a time, but yet you feel like you're getting so much with every bit, every reveal you get. You feel like you're getting so much, and yet you know for a fact you're not getting that much at all. And I love that. Plus I think that the character interactions are starting to level out in a way. It feels like they're actually a little bit more natural, and I do like that about it.
Yeah, I think my only issue that I've been having so far is really with the main protagonist Yujiro, where he's kind of they're playing a little bit too much off the family thing with Gurren. It's like, really, you really shouldn't be trusting this guy, and yet they're kind of, oh, well, he's part of the family. He said that we're part of the family. And it's like, yeah, he also said it with a big smirk on his face, so I don't know why you playing that off as him wanting to be your family. But that's fine. I'm fine with this whole thing of not abandoning him, even though it does seem like he's been using them at this entire time, and that's all getting revealed. I think my big takeaway on this first impression is really the idea that, again, because the only people that are going to be really wanting to listen to this is people that have watched the first season, and maybe some people that just don't care about the spoilers of the first season and want to listen to our opinion anyways, is if you had the same issue as I did where the first season didn't seem like it had enough subplot to keep it moving, I now can say that you can move into the second season because it is, and you're putting off the second season. Know that it has improved so much. And it's gotten to the point now where it's like, yeah, we were kind of mentioning the idea that this can be complete shonen material and just turn into an epic. It's shown now that it can do that, and there's so much it can dive into. And granted, we kind of knew a little bit of that in the first season. It just wasn't showing that it had stuff there. You can give me a ton of characters, and technically you can go into each one of them and make it into an epic, but now they're showing that they have clever, interesting writing in there that is worth going into. But then it comes back to the fear of, I hope that they keep this going, because this can definitely not conclude in this one core, because there's so much stuff they're unpacking, it's not even funny. So
the one thing that I am most concerned about is how they're going to play Mikhail and you. I think that of all parts of this show, I'm pretty much on board with. But as an eyeglass into the vampire world, Mikhail works. Mm-hmm. Making him a rival to you, I have a huge problem with.
I don't think they're going to do that. I think it's going to continue to be kind of a behind enemy lines kind of thing. But it's nice that they've kind of set it up to where it's not completely behind enemy lines. It's not, he doesn't like the humans. He doesn't trust them because of what they've done to you. At the same time, you doesn't trust the vampire because of what the vampires did to him. So I like that element of neither trust the other side, but at the same time, they don't trust their own side. So it's like, they don't really have a home on either side of this. They're just kind of dealing with the situation or to keep moving.
Right.
And I kind of like that they've done that. And as to where they can go with the future, it's really questionable.
And that's what I'm saying. The aspect of how it's going to play out when even when they did that last season, this aspect of, I'm going to kill you to stop you from no. Okay. Having that rivalry to protect each other or protect the other side doesn't work for me. I like that, and I don't like it at the same time.
I'm fine with it just because they're both tools, and I can see them both wanting the idea of just save the other one and get the heck out of where they're at. Exactly. I don't see it really as staying around. I want to, at this point, probably cut us off, so if you haven't watched the first... It's not really big, huge spoilers, so I don't really think it's that important if you've not watched the second season, but you watched the first season. But in case you're very sensitive to spoilers, you've watched the first season, haven't watched the second season, or either one of them, I want to start kind of messing with a few ideas here. So some interesting plot lines that I want to kind of dive into. But full on open spoilers after this point if you're afraid of those. But I kind of see them doing a thing where, because they've already kind of addressed with Shinoa's sister the idea that the blades that they're going down to get are technically vampires turned to demons, turned to weapons. I kind of am wondering if at some point down this long story of chapters, if they at some point are going to have you wielding Mikhail.
I thought about that. I don't see it as much, mostly because he's a Seraph as well.
But that makes it even more crazy, because, he would be a Seraph turned into a weapon.
It gives you his other wing. Yes, I'm on board.
Yeah. Technically, that's where that kind of runs into that whole thing.
But yeah, it's an interesting concept. You and Mikhail, I love them as not as a couple, but as a...
Totally a couple.
They're totally a couple.
They're all over your face. Look at that opening.
No, I really like Shinoa. I think that she's adorable, and I think she works perfectly.
She's doing a lot better.
And I like Tsundere. I like Tsundere as well. I think she is great for you. So
they're doing a lot. I wanted Mitsuba so bad because she was a Tsundere of the first season. It didn't work out that well because they just made her so useless. Shinoa, I felt, was a little bit too much, and now we're in the second season, and Shinoa's calmed down. I like her a lot more, and Mitsuba has got like character development happening, and I'm like,
yeah, she's definitely a flawed character. I've never ruled her out. I've always loved her.
But they're pointing out Mitsuba as being flawed, and the idea that she's like, oh, you just got a promotion for doing nothing, right? And she's like, yeah, she took it, and I was like, I like that scene. It was like she knows she did nothing and she got a promotion and she's not proud of it kind of thing.
Right. But as for our main couple, No, I think that it's hard to describe exactly what it is about it. Them going head to head. I don't like that idea. I
don't think they are right now.
I thought that I thought that Naruto did it fine, but these two, I think they have too much investment in each other to actually go head to head, and I have a huge problem with them going at each other.
But they haven't shown any sign of them going against each other. I mean, they can do it eventually by having Mikhail kill somebody from Yu's team.
That's what I think is going to
happen. I can really only
happening.
see it being maybe Gurren, maybe. But,
right. And I think that that's what we're going to end up seeing happen is this misunderstanding between the two that is going to cause their rivalry. I don't like it. I think that they're fine. Do it
well, I don't see any sign of them not doing a proper job and putting it into play. Like, that would be assuming that they're going to do a terrible job in presenting that. They might do a good job of presenting that. They might put a plausible experience in there that'll make it happen. I think discounting it now before it even happens is a little bit dishonest with it.
No, it's not dishonest. It's more along the lines of you've got this idea of a family bond where they've gone through some really deep crap, and the idea that the fact that Yu is a vampire, obviously he's gotten over the fact that he's a vampire because he knows full well that that Mikhail is a vampire, and he seems to be okay now. I have to still save my quote unquote brother, because that's the way they pretty much look at each other, is they're either that or they're lovers, and it's either way they're to a point where the bond is so strong that even the fact that one of them has changed to a vampire is irrelevant. Now, the only way that you can push that any farther or break that is to do something very, very extreme, and I don't think that you could much do that with anything.
Well, they've already pointed out that you can lose control by releasing his Seraph. Why can't Mikhail lose control by releasing his Seraph? And again, Yu doesn't know about that whole thing. Mikhail loses his spirit, kills one of his friends. Technically, they don't have a huge long bond. They were in the vampire lair, or they were at the orphanage for we don't know. It could have been 6 months, and then they go into the vampire thing. It could have been 6 months. He gets out of there. Yeah, he has that bond with him, but that could be broken by the fact that he's living with now all these new family members for who knows how long before Mikhail loses control, kills somebody, and then he realizes those bonds aren't that strong.
It felt like they were in the vampire world for at least a few years.
Well, could have been.
And they were protecting each other. I mean, it's all speculation either way. Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
It was long enough for the world to fall and the rubble to the dust to settle,
and then another civilization be rebuilt to create demon weapons, which
we'll see. Anything can happen. Shinnok could kill Mikhail next episode. We don't know.
There you go.
And then he'll turn into a weapon, and then he'll wield them, and then it'll be double Seraph, 2-winged. But a lot of cool stuff there. I can't wait to see what happened to it. I guess we'll end with the closing of Seraph of the End.
Sure, why not?
I guess, yeah. Enjoy that song, and thank you for listening to our little extra bit of spoiler stuff, and y'all take care.
Os.